from 10 to 11. It's time to get up and get your day started. It's Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Now, here are your hosts, Greg and Eli.
What is happening, good people of Memphis and the Mid-South? We welcome you into Sports 56 Mornings. Happy Hump Day to you. It's the Wednesday, February 12th, 2025 edition. Same cast of characters. You got Greg Gaston, Eli Savoy, Elijah Seegers with you from the Family Leisure Studios. Family Leisure, it's where family and fun come together. Preseason pool and patio sale going on right now. Yes, spring is just around the corner. Although Puxatawny Phil says, no, it's not. Not so fast, my friend. Hold your roll. Family Leisure, 2120 Whitten Road, just north of I-40. Yes, we still have a little bit more winter to go, a little bit more cold weather. Today, another nasty day, unfortunately, in store for everyone. Currently 40 degrees. We'll get up to 48 today, but we're going to see periods of rain throughout the day into the early evening. There may be some patchy fog this morning, so be careful driving. And then tonight, overnight, things will start to clear up a bit. And then for your Thursday, the sun will come out. However, the high temperature will only be 38 degrees, with the overnight low a whopping 25. 51 on Friday, so the cold weather is still unfortunately upon us. Coming up on the program today, we'll talk Grizzlies. They go out west. They beat Phoenix last night, look good in doing so. They will play the Clippers tonight in Los Angeles, and then it's the All-Star break. We'll talk all things Grizzlies and NBA. Lots of college basketball to get to. Big night with the SEC involved in a number of games and some big national games, some surprises as well around the top 25. We will discuss that. We'll give you the latest on the Tyrese Hunter injury as the Memphis Tigers get set to hit the road for a couple games at South Florida on Thursday and at Wichita State on Sunday. NFL news, the final head coaching vacancy has been filled. We will discuss that. Dane Bradshaw will join us in about 20 minutes. SEC network analyst, former Tennessee Vols standout who was on the call of Florida and Mississippi State last night. And he's going to be on the call of the Tigers in South Florida on Thursday. So we'll talk to Dane about all of that. Jerry Palm at 8:25 with his latest bracketology. As of yesterday, he had Memphis in as a 4 seed. DeMichael Cole at 9:05 on the Grizzlies. And then Parthu Pajai, more on the Memphis Tigers. That'll be at 9:25. We'll take your calls and texts on the Sissy's Log Cabin listener lines at 901-360-8255. Good morning.
Good morning.
Late night for us, watching the Grizzlies. Same deal tonight with the Grizzlies and the Clippers. But a good night, nevertheless.
It was a late night. Yesterday was I had enough of Memphis drivers yesterday. I don't know what was going on. Yesterday there was just something. Actually, it was because part of it's because it's raining.
Sure.
People here have no idea. But between people like weaving through traffic at like 95 and then others doing 45 down the interstate and just idiots everywhere cutting people off. I don't know. I just wanted to get off the roadways yesterday because it was a dangerous world out there.
You have your reckless drivers, and then you have your cautious drivers that are overly cautious, that they can cause accidents as well. And then you have your idiots who are texting and putting on makeup and doing other things on the cell phone, not paying attention. It's a war zone out there driving. You have to play defense. You have to play defense. I've always said, up north, driving around in the city in Manhattan, which I've done many times, you got to be on the offense. But in Memphis, you have to be on the defense. You have to look out. Sides, rearview mirror, you have to look out because you don't know what idiot is coming.
I had 2 different times yesterday where, and this happens all the time here, and it's bizarre to be like, where traffic just came to a screeching halt and was backed up, and we're just going along and just figure there's going to be an accident. And then I get up there, and eventually it clears up, and there's no accident. Just decided to halt traffic for a while. It's just everybody had to stop for a moment, which is usually because of some idiot that goes flying across all the lanes of traffic or whatever, so people slam on their brakes or whatever. But it happened 2 different times yesterday where I'm like, okay, like, when do I get past the accident? And then all of a sudden we start rolling. I'm like, not anything. There's not a car. There's nothing. It was just traffic stop for the hell of it.
When you reach your destination in Memphis, you feel pretty good. You've accomplished something.
Yesterday, I felt like I did. I was like, I really wish I didn't have to go back out in this, but I did. But yeah, yesterday was a day on the roads.
And then we've talked about it before, not to mention the people at the red light when it turns green deciding not to move for no apparent reason other than they're not paying attention. And then when do you do the honk? Do you do the light honk? When do you do the step on that honk, man, that New York honk?
Oh, there was one the other day, and I have no idea how long they possibly sat there, but there was stoplights that were out.
Oh, forget it.
And there was
chaos.
There was a truck that I guess, I don't know, doesn't know any of the rules. It was just sitting there, would not move. So everybody else kept thinking are you going to go? But no. So then they would go and everybody would go. And it sat there. I mean, because I was it took me a while to get to the intersection because I was 5 or 6 cars back. That truck never moved. It was just sitting there. There were 2 cars behind it. I'm like, at what point are they going to be like, dude, you got to go? Like, somebody, are you just going to sit there? I went up, I turned, went, I looked in my mirror, still no movement. I
had it broken down?
No, they were just sitting there with their turn signal on.
Wow.
I have no idea how long they sat there. I don't know if they were thought the light was magically going to come back on or what was going to happen. But the 2 cars behind it, at some point, I assume, had to start honking hey, we'd like to move here. But there probably was 30, 40 cars that went through the intersection, and they did not move.
Do they still have driver's ed, any driver's test here in Tennessee? Or are you just handed it when you're of legal age? Here's your card.
I don't even know. Maybe the person fell asleep. I don't know. Maybe they were just asleep at the. I was like, I don't know what you're gonna do. If you're not willing to go, what are you doing? Are you literally gonna wait for the light to come back on? You're just I'm not moving until the light comes back on.
Well, congratulations, you made it. You made it safely back home. You made it to the facilities, the studio today.
No, this morning
and here we are.
This morning was smooth sailing. I give the folks credit this morning. It was no issues whatsoever today. But hopefully that's a sign of good things to come.
It's another rainy day, so I wouldn't count on it. Last night, the Grizzlies beat the Suns 119-112. We discussed this on the show yesterday. This is a Suns team that has a couple of electric parts, but overall, they're missing things. And they tried to make the big trade before the deadline to bring in Jimmy Butler. It didn't happen. So Phoenix is not a threat out west. They're just not a threat. And last night, it was never a question of whether or not the Grizzlies would win. The only question was by how many. And they win 119-112. They improved to 36-17. And now tonight could be a different story against a Clippers team that, if they're all healthy, if Kawhi's playing, with Zubac's a big center, that's the kind of game that worries me a little bit about the Grizzlies and at times lack of physicality. But last night, you got contributions from a lot of players, and Ja played well. He was bad against Oklahoma City, as was most of the team. But Ja was electric, 26 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, filled the stat sheet. Des Bane, same deal, 20 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. So between those 2 guards, Morant and Bane, you got 15 rebounds between those 2 guys. Jaren Jackson Jr., not as many points as he's been scoring, but 17 and 6 rebounds. Brandon Clark, 14 points and 7 rebounds off the bench. Santi Aldama, 14 points, 5 rebounds off the bench. Vince Williams Jr., 7 points, 9 rebounds off the bench. So you got a theme here. Everybody rebounded the basketball. Zach Edey didn't play a ton. I think he ended up with 9 rebounds. So a good job by the Grizzlies taking care of business in Phoenix.
Yeah, it wasn't in question most of the night, but down the stretch there, it got a question.
Yeah, I was never concerned.
It got to question when and if Kevin Durant doesn't throw that one horrendous pass, which thank goodness he did. I like Kevin Durant throwing passes.
Were you really that concerned they were going to lose that game?
The way that lead was evaporating when it got down to 3, yes, I was very much concerned because Durant was scoring at will. Santi in that first quarter, my goodness gracious. That dude
came out guns a-blazing, didn't he?
11 straight right off the just off the bench, and it was like perfect time. They talk about him on the broadcast, and he then immediately scores 11 straight points. He was fantastic. I'll say this. I'll give Kevin Durant a lot of credit. The defense he played on Jaren Jackson Jr. I honestly didn't believe Kevin Durant had that in him. He was absolutely fantastic on the defensive end. Jaren, that's,
do we forget how tall Kevin Durant is? And when he wants to put that effort in on the defensive end, being that tall helps.
Well, obviously, yeah, but Kevin Durant's not known for some great, and nobody has been able to stop Jaren Jackson Jr. I didn't think Kevin Durant was going to be the guy to cause Jaren Jackson Jr. problems.
Certainly slowed him down.
Ja, if he could hit some threes, could have had a really huge night. But he just couldn't hit the threes, and really neither team could hit threes for the most part all night long. But it was good to see the rebounding, although you'd like to see them be more efficient off their offensive rebounds. They were just 7 of 18 in second chance opportunities, while the Suns were 6 for 8. But after the horrendous rebounding night they had against Oklahoma City, just to see them, dominate the boards the way they did, that was great to see. And, it was contributions from everybody. And interesting that, again, he goes with Vince to close that game. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, and Jalen last night had the foul issues. But I wonder if maybe coming out of the All-Star break, we see Vince go into the starting lineup in place of Wells.
I don't think so. I think he's going to run with Wells as a starter, and we'll talk to DeMichael Cole today, and DeMichael always brings this up. It really doesn't matter who starts, it's who finishes. And I think now moving forward, there's more of a chance that Vince Williams will be closing and not Jalen Wells. But I think he'll run with Wells. I could be wrong, but I think he'll run with Wells as a starter. But Jalen ends up playing 19 minutes. Didn't play a lot against Oklahoma City. Edey played 20. Clark ended up playing just about 20 as well. Good dispersion as far as the numbers are concerned as far as minutes. Clark played 19 off the bench. Aldama 23. Gigi got 13. Kennard got 15. For some reason, just he didn't get a shot up. He took one shot. Vince Williams 17 minutes. Scottie Pippen 12 minutes. Hit a couple of 3 balls, but yeah, got a little hairy. But I was never worried about the Grizzlies winning. They're 15-11 on the road. Continue to have a really good road record. By the way, Phoenix 26-27 now. Game under 500. They're 16-11 at home. I was about to say that was their road record. 16-11 at home. So tonight's the Clippers. And I don't know if the Clippers are better than the Grizzlies. And tonight, no matter what the result is, doesn't mean that's an indication of who is. But this is a team, I think, when they're all there, matches up much better against the Grizzlies than a Phoenix does.
Yeah, the Clippers are favored tonight. They've had a lot of success against the Grizzlies recently. They've had the Grizzlies number. Obviously, the Grizzlies in a second of a back-to-back. This will be a difficult task. That's why you certainly didn't want to lose both of these and go into the All-Star break with a 3-game losing streak to get last night's game. Certainly, it'd be love to get tonight's game, and they're more than capable of that, but at least getting one of these two going into the break was huge.
Yeah, that's why I said a split is fine. Going into the break, you rest up, you get ready for the second half push, and we're obviously well beyond the halfway mark of the season, games-wise. It was a pretty light schedule last night in the NBA, but one game that stood out, the Pistons and the Bulls. At the half, the Pistons led the Bulls 71-29. It was like a high school game, a lopsided high school game, a lopsided girls' high school game when you see those type of scores. 71-29. Are you kidding me?
Oh, be ready for more of that down the stretch.
Is that...
As teams try to raise the flag.
So you think that was more of that? More of a tankathon than it was just inept play? Detroit won by 40, by the way, 132-92. And again, the Pistons, what a turnaround from last year. Also last night, the Raptors beat the Sixers 106-103 in Philly, and Embiid played, and George played. I don't think Maxey did, though, did he?
Yeah, I think everybody played.
Maxey did play? Again, horrible loss. That's the question. Should Philadelphia tank?
Well, their thing is, if Embiid truly is going to need another surgery on the knee, he might as well just go ahead and do it. They are going nowhere.
I mean, he still scored 27, had 12 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, a block. You're right. Massey played, but did he really? 34 minutes, 1 of 9 from the field and 5 points. You don't see that much. That's why I didn't realize he played. Tyrese Maxey. Yeah, so I don't know. Philadelphia, we'll see what happens with them. And then the Knicks over the Pacers, 128-115, which goes back to what we talked about and I said yesterday with the East. Okay, Pacers are a decent team. They can win a series. That's it. There's 3 teams, basically, and the Knicks are one of them. And Karl Anthony Towns went off yesterday. And that trade with Minnesota just continues to look better and better and better for the New York Knicks. What did he end up with, 40?
I'm not sure what he ended up with.
I mean, he was going crazy early. Let me look that up. He had 40 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. Ouch. I mean, this was a Knicks team that Jalen Brunson is normally on with his offense. He was 4 of 11 from the field. Josh Hart got you 30. They still have Mikal Bridges. They still have, but he's injured, OG Anunoby. That is a very good team. Still don't think they're good enough to beat Boston, but maybe. You never know in a series. Also yesterday, news from off the court, Brandon Ingram, who was dealt by the Pelicans before the trade deadline to Toronto, does agree to a 3-year, $120 million extension. So he'll be around for a while with the Raptors. Player option for the 27-28 season. Again, a quality player. When he's healthy, he can help. And maybe that becomes the focal point of the Raptors, and they'll build around him for the next 3 years or so. Alex Len, we talked about this yesterday. He was going to sign with the Pacers, ends up agreeing with the Lakers. So the Lakers have a big, not a big scorer, more of a defensive guy, Alex Len, who played with Sacramento before being dealt, former University of Maryland Terrapin, by the way. Score another one for the Terps.
They have a big stiff. But he's big.
They have a big stiff.
They need somebody that qualified as big. He qualifies as big. That is all he qualifies as, but hey, they have a big. By the way, kudos to Mike Budenholzer for the Bowl experience last night. Love the Bowl experience.
You love Bowl, don't you?
And he was awesome. I mean, he was absolutely awesome in that game.
Bowl.
Do it for 18, 14, and 4 blocks. He hit the one huge 3 late. Mm-hmm. Also, thanks to Mike Budenholzer and Phoenix for keeping Ty Washington out there at the one point when Phoenix was making the comeback, and he just kept firing up 3s and missing them. Because if it wasn't for Ty Washington, the Grizzlies may not have won the game, but he's not afraid to keep shooting it, even when he has no chance at making one.
Modern-day Josh Selby. I didn't know Ty Washington was still in the league. Does he play a lot?
He's been up and down. I mean, if Beal was playing, he wouldn't be playing much. But.
So he plays a lot in the G League?
I don't know if they've had him down in the G League or not, but he's been, through his career, he's been up and down.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't recall looking at a lot. I try to look at as many box scores as I can. I don't remember seeing a lot of Ty Washington. So, yeah, the Ty Bowl experience last night in Phoenix.
And
not successful.
And I give Nick Richards credit. Mm-hmm. The pass that Desmond Bain threw off of his head, I would have been knocked unconscious. They would have had to scrape me off the court. Like that Dude, that's a bullet pass from like 3 feet away right to your forehead. And he, like, I'll give him credit, like, just kind of shook it off. Like, it was like, I'm like, dude, no, I'm out cold.
Either he has a hard cranium or a former soccer player.
Oh. See, to me, like that's like the NFL. That's where they got to like stop play. Like, dude, you got to get off the court for concussion protocol.
Right.
We got to get you through concussion protocol. You just took a basketball to the noggin at a very high rate of speed from 3 feet away.
God bless him. Yeah, it would have knocked me out.
But Nick Richards is a scary dude. Like he would scare me anyway.
Big boy, no question about it. All right, so the Grizz get the win, and now tonight they'll play the L.A. Clippers before the All-Star break. We'll talk more about the Grizzlies later on in the program. DeMichael Cole will join us as he does each and every week at 9:05. When we return, though, we're talking college basketball. Dane Bradshaw is going to join us, the former White Station High School and Tennessee Ball standout, now part of the SEC network. He's a terrific analyst, did the Mississippi State-Florida game last night in Starkville, won by Florida 81-68, and he'll be on the call of the Memphis game versus South Florida on Thursday. So that's unusual for an SEC basketball analyst. We'll ask him why that is the case, but either way, it's always great to talk to Dane about the SEC and now a little bit about the Memphis Tigers as well. He's coming up next. This is Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Valentine's Day from Gould's, where love is in the air and so is a sweet deal. Buy $200 or more in Gould's gift cards and get 15% off. Treat your Valentine or Valentine's to a little pampering, relaxation, and style from Gould's. This Valentine's special offer is available online and in store in Gould's February 7th through the 14th. Just go to GouldSalonSpa.com and use code LOVE25 to purchase online. Gould Salon Spa, burning red since 1932.
I know it's not spring yet, but it's close, and right now, it's the perfect time to start thinking and planning for your backyard entertainment. Just so happens Family Leisure is thinking that way too, with their preseason pool and patio sale. Get 2024 pricing on all above-ground pools and patio furniture. Also, secure your spot for pool installation. That way, you can go ahead and start making plans. Lots of new inventory is en route, so in-stock patio furniture is up to 70% off. You want a play gym, a trampoline, how about an outdoor kitchen to go along with that new pool? They're all on sale too. You can get spas up to $3,000 off and save even more by mentioning this ad. You do that, you'll get a $250 gift card with a pool, spa, or patio furniture purchase. Winter won't last forever. The spring will be here soon, so get ready with the preseason pool and patio sale at Family Leisure, Whit Road off I-40, where family and fun all come together.
When it comes to protecting my family's future, I want a life insurance company that's at the top of their game. That's why I got same-day coverage.
Listen each and every Sunday morning at 11 to join Ottawa Presbyterian Church for worship. Ottawa is a PCUSA church downtown Memphis. Sports 56 traffic.
Good morning. I'm looking at this accident out here. One car went off the road. Everybody's slowing down to rubberneck as they drive by 40 westbound at Witten Road. That's really causing some problems with all that traffic that's coming down through there this time of the morning between Germantown Parkway and Witten Road on 40 going westbound. Just about through with that wreck in the Midtown area on 240 southbound near Lamar as it builds now from the south of 55 going northbound up through DeSoto County into South Memphis. Hey, if your lawn needs a little bit of help this time of the year, call Lawn Solutions today. They have over 30 years experience. 867-5626. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Now back to Sports 56 morning on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Here once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
Welcome back, everyone. 7:25 is the time. SEC action tonight. Ole Miss travels to South Carolina, and Oklahoma's at Missouri, LSU at Arkansas. But last night there were 5 games, a lot of action, some interesting results. But not only will we talk to Dane Bradshaw about the SEC, we're going to talk to him also about the Memphis Tigers. He'll be on the call of tomorrow night's game in Tampa with the Tigers and South Florida. He is the former Tennessee Vols standout, White Station High School star, and SEC basketball analyst, SEC Network analyst. He is Dane Bradshaw. You can follow him on Twitter at Dane Bradshaw. Busy night last night, Dane. Thank you so much for jumping on early with us this morning. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks as always for having me.
So before we dive into last night's game and the SEC, why, and I think this is great because you do a great job, why are you on the call Thursday of the Memphis game?
They're mixing me in some for the American Conference. So I had a UAB North Texas game recently. I guess I'm a victim of SEC success. I've been on the SEC tournament for quite some time, but as it's become more popular, the A team of Jay Billis and others, I think, are going to come stake their flag on the SEC tournament this year. So this is the boss's subtle way of saying, do your homework on the American Conference. You're probably going to be in Fort Worth calling some games there. So happy to do it, especially if Memphis is involved.
Shocking that they would send that group, instead of doing the ACC this year, they're going to send them to the SEC.
Yeah, they haven't finalized all the plans yet, but that's what it's looking like, is just getting all the attention that's on the SEC right now and everything that's at stake there. So it should be an awesome week in Nashville. But SEC, man, they're beating up on each other, and I know they're looking at an incredible amount of bids, but they've got 3, I guess, on the bubble right now that could go either way, with Georgia, Arkansas, Texas, and I guess you throw Vanderbilt in that mix too.
Yeah, it's a real curious situation because it's such a good conference. There's so many good teams, but if a team that's projected right now starts to lose a bunch of games in the end because of the caliber of competition they're playing, are they subject to not making it? For example, I think solidly Mississippi State's in the game you called last night, Florida-Mississippi State, but they lose another home game. They're now 5-6 in conference play. How about if Mississippi State all of a sudden loses 5 out of 6? Could they be in jeopardy?
Well, with a team like that, I don't think so. I do think the number we've kind of been using across the league is with 18 league games, we feel like 7-11 in league play is likely good enough to get in.
Wow.
Obviously, there's a little bit of detail behind that. If you were one of the teams with a less impressive non-conference, such as a Vanderbilt, which was good, but their strength of schedule wasn't as high, then maybe you need 8 wins. But a team like Arkansas, that's the reason, as slow of a start as they had coming out in conference play, they've had some good wins, and as you guys know, Arkansas beat Michigan, and certain games just continue to pay off as the season goes on, and Michigan has just continued gotten better. I believe they're at the top of the Big Ten as we wake up this morning, and so sometimes it's not necessarily who you play, but when you play them, and then what that team goes on to do afterwards, and that can be a little bit of good fortune.
The game you had last night, the Alex Condon ankle injury, which certainly is huge for Florida if he does miss time. Afterwards, Todd Golden thought that was a dirty play. Did you have any problem with the play by Melendez?
I can see where Todd Golden is defending his player because I don't think it was a dirty play in the sense of I want to try to hurt this guy. I think, so for those that didn't see it, it was an inbounds pass. They were trying to just kind of lob it out for a typical entry pass to their Florida's big man Condon. He loses his footing. He's off balance. His defender kind of slides past him, and then as he's sliding past him, he grabs Condon's shoulder. And you could certainly argue that, by him pulling that shoulder, it made him roll that ankle even harder than it was already being turned. I think that sort of additional weight and twist. But to me, I think it's impossible to pull away from that play and say, hey, the defender saw the ankle being rolled and he grabbed the shoulder to roll it harder. I just don't think that was the case, even though the context certainly wasn't for a basketball play or a play on the ball at all. And I think that's where you're getting that. But the good news for Florida so far is X-rays were negative. Looks like a high ankle sprain. I'm sure they'll have more on it today.
And obviously, very impressive win to lose him a minute into the game. Don't have Elijah Martin and still dominate the second half the way they did last night.
Yeah, they've got great depth. Now, with that in mind, in the second half, they didn't really. They went from a deep team to a relatively thin team. They played their 5 best players that were available out 18 of the 20 minutes in that second half. Given the score, they probably only needed them for 15. But they came out in that second half, and I've never seen quite a flurry, at least not recently. They went on a 17-0 run. That game was close at halftime, and you thought, okay, this is going to be another close game at home for Mississippi State. Can they get a quality win on their home court? And in Florida, you talk about complementary basketball, defense to offense. And I think what makes it challenging, too, Florida plays 2 traditional bigs. So it's not your typical, 4 around 1. And what Mississippi State tried to do early in that second half was adjust personnel and, hey, let's play 2 bigs against your bigs. But the problem is not many teams that, have skilled bigs. And then they lose more on the offensive end, and they don't have as good of ball handlers, whereas Florida, they can play big, but their bigs are pretty skilled. Like, they can pick and pop with their threes. They're not going to bring up the court and run the offense, but they do a couple of those dribble handoffs, and you trust them running offense through them on the elbows, and it becomes a pretty big mismatch.
SEC Network analyst Dane Bradshaw, our good buddy on the Sissy's Log Cabin guest line, joining us after calling last night's Mississippi State-Florida game. Will be on his way to Tampa to call Memphis and South Florida tomorrow. I guess the highlight last night for Mississippi State and Mississippi State fans was that Darius Slay Jr. was there, fresh off a Super Bowl win for the Eagles. I don't know if you guys highlighted him on the broadcast, but nice to see a Super Bowl champion in the house when your team's getting beat by 13.
Yeah, no, it was awesome, and I'm a lifelong Eagles fan, and I've created a monster with my 13-year-old son. So that was the highlight of my night as well. Darius Slay couldn't have been cooler either. So I introduced myself. He got out of his chair, gave me a great handshake, did a quick video for my son. Great big personality that spent a lot of time for those guys. So Jalen Hurts goes off to Disney World, and Darius Slay comes back to Starkville. You got to love it.
There you go, Stark Vegas. Okay, I need to know, just quickly, briefly, that story. How does a kid growing up in Memphis, prepping here at White Station High School, how do you become a Philadelphia Eagles fan?
Well, my dad is originally from Jersey, so he grew up near Philly, so that was certainly some influence. I think the greater influence was when Randall Cunningham was becoming the ultimate weapon. And so I loved his style of play. And then I was the one kid at the sleepovers in 3rd grade that had the Cunningham jersey surrounded by nothing but Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, and my hatred for that Cowboy team just grew and grew. And it was one of those, man, I just, and all we did was typically just get beat and never win. And I was the kid that, would play Madden on a Sega Genesis and I would do 2 controllers and leave the other one idle while I just smacked the Cowboys. That was my only way to do it.
Wow. I can't believe your dad's from Jersey. That's where I'm from, so that's pretty cool. All right.
You're
South Jersey, Paulsboro.
Yeah, I'm from Atlantic City. Went to Holy Spirit High School. Played Paulsboro in the playoffs. So yeah, there's a connection. It's about 40 minutes from where I live, where I grew
Love
up.
it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So your alma mater over the last few days, we've gotten to kind of see what they did to Oklahoma Saturday. If they could have that offense every game, I'm not sure they would ever lose. But then last night they turn around and they go 3 of 18 from 3-point range, and Chaz Lanier goes 0 for 7. I love Tennessee, except for I just feel like there's always one of those games coming, and it seems like they rely so much on Lanier's shooting that when he has an off game, it's really tough for them offensively.
Yeah, no question, and I think that's some of the love-hate and the Jekyll and Hyde component to Tennessee's offense that we've seen over the years, and Tennessee fans still have a little PTSD from that because the exception, for the most part, was a generational one-year player in Dalton Connect last year that could just totally bail you out of those situations. They ran good offense for him, but there was a lot of times where give him the ball, get out of the way, and he would save you from those scoring droughts. Defensively, they typically do enough to keep them in it. But boy, do they put a lot of pressure on their defense to save their offense. And I don't like the matchup against Kentucky for them, even though Kentucky has been vulnerable. Kentucky runs such good offense with all this 5-out stuff, slipping, and all these sets. Whereas Tennessee, when they're at their best as a lockdown defense, it's when a team full of guards that wants to penetrate and do things off the bounce. You just can't. You're not going to get by them. They guard their man so well that they don't get in rotations. Now, if you get it moving really quick with a bunch of sets the way Kentucky can, I think it gives them problems. But I think Tennessee will do enough to hang on to at least a 2 seed. And why that's so important is because, look, you get in that second round and you're playing a 7 seed or a 10 seed. All of a sudden, you can have one of those bad shooting nights and still advance. And I think that's where their seeding and body of work is going to be so important. You see it coming, and you just, for Tennessee's sake, you hope it's against an opponent that is simply less talented to where you survive one of those bad nights in the tournament.
Bama took care of business last night. Auburn took care of business last night. They meet in Tuscaloosa, as you know, on Saturday. Who do you like in that matchup? And is that winner, in your mind, the best team in the SEC?
Yeah, I'd have to still maybe give the nod to Auburn. And look, if they get blown out, maybe it can change. But I just try not to be in the moment of one game only.
Sure.
And the reason is Alabama shoots it so well. Their offense is so great, and actually their shooting has been down most of the year. Yet their offensive numbers were still insane. So you knew hey, once they get their 3-ball going, now they're going to become a legit title contender, and that's what's happened over the past couple weeks. They're just still thin on the front line. I think in the off season when they wanted to get bigger down low, I'm not sure they totally accomplished that. They got a big man, Amore, in there. That's a good rim protector. But where they get in trouble is Grant Nelson, who's a very versatile 4-man, is when he's having to play a lot of 5, and sometimes their best offensive team isn't their best defensive team out there. And I think Janai Broome is really the difference because Auburn can rely on him. He can share the ball, and they've got great guard play. So I would still favor Auburn right now in terms of March, regardless of the outcome.
Yeah, talking about Alabama last night, a 60, 50, 90 night shooting the basketball. Going to be tough to beat anybody shooting like that. You mentioned Arkansas earlier. Do you think Arkansas has figured it out? What do you think of them now going forward?
Yeah, even if it's due to a little bit of desperation, their point guard freshman Boogie Fland is out for the year with a hand injury, and you just thought it was going to go from bad to worse. But when that happened, it shrunk their rotation, left less decisions for the staff on who should play, and who should be running, who should have the ball in their hands more. So DJ Wagner has been the primary ball handler, and I think the biggest thing is the trade-off with the big fella, Big Z, Avicic, that followed Calipari from Kentucky. He gives up some things defensively. Like, you can move him off his spot, and he might get beat to the glass some, and you're going to give up some paint points. But he's also probably going to give you 2 or 3 blocks, and he's going to spread the court on the other end. And if he's making 2 or 3 threes, now you're really difficult to guard. And so it's been a weird year for Arkansas because Jonas Adu, who I thought was on the cusp of being an All-SEC player at Tennessee, maybe not first team, but certainly second team coming into this year. He's been totally non-existent and unable to really break the lineup. To his defense, he had a foot injury, slow start coming out, and then just a new system and some competition at that spot has left him on the outside looking in. Yet Calipari's teams, they get better as the year goes on, and that was the one thing that gave you a glimmer of hope as a Razorback fan was, will we continue to get better? There wasn't much room but up, but they've still made a big step forward, and now I'd be more surprised if they don't make the tournament, and that wouldn't have been my opinion 2 weeks ago.
Yep. Dane Bradshaw joining us here on the Sissy's Log Cabin guest lines. And before we let you go, obviously, as we talked about earlier in the conversation, you got the game tomorrow night between Memphis and South Florida. Tyrese Hunter, game-time decision, according to Coach Penny Hardaway. What do you like about Memphis? What do you think? I'm sitting here looking at Ken Palm. They're 43, they're 45 in the net, yet they're 14th ranked in the entire country. What's your assessment of the Tigers?
Well, I think on a given night they can have the best big man on the court and the best guard on the court. And the way they can spread you out as well. And I still hadn't gone back and watched all of Sunday's game against Temple, but, they use Haggerty in a really good way. That they'll get Danger out there, and yeah, he might not be a threat from three, but he's got such good size that if you sack off of Danger and you let Haggerty and you leave Haggerty's man on an island trying to get through Danger and still contest Haggerty and they just have some really good action there, and I think you can tell Penny Hardaway trusts Danger to slip on and some of those short rolls and make the right play. He's got such good footwork and a soft touch. And I think he's got a great pace as a screener, too. Like, a lot of times you send big men out there setting screens on the perimeter, and you're worried you're going to get them in foul trouble and pick up an illegal screen here or there. And I think they've just been running some really good stuff there. And then, of course, you get some good rim protection off the bench with Cisse. So a balanced team as well, similar. Not quite up there with Auburn, but in terms of, hey, do you have a dangerous front court to go with a back court? And Memphis is checking those boxes right now.
Dane, I did want to go back to one SEC team because I still don't know what to think of Texas A&M. I mean, I know they're good, and the second half they just annihilated Georgia last night to start that half, but they haven't beaten the elite teams at the top of the SEC. Now they still have to play Tennessee, Florida, and Auburn again. How good do you think A&M is?
Yeah, it's tough when you watch them to just fall in love with them because it's not aesthetically pleasing offensively.
It's shoot the ball so you can go rebound it.
Yeah, that's it. And they they go after it like a pack of wolves. And but then they play so hard defensively. It was insane. I was listening to that during my drive back. I mean, that was another one that was a game at the half, and it was like 7 minutes to go in the second half, and they said Georgia's last made field goal was towards the end of the first half. Like, they had shut Georgia down, and I'm sure some of that was Georgia missing some open looks too, but they just make you play so uncomfortable. I would bet that if you polled every SEC team and coaches and players included, and you said, what's the team you hate to play against the most? I bet Texas A&M would probably get the most votes because they just make it ugly. It can be a foul fest. And the refs can't call them all, and you just come out of that thing bruised and battered, and you might have held them to 35% from the field. And you look up and you lost the game.
Yeah.
He is Dane Bradshaw. He'll be on the call of tomorrow night's Tigers game versus South Florida. You hear him doing a lot of the SEC games, part of the SEC network on ESPN. You can follow him on Twitter at Dane Bradshaw. Look, I know it was a late night for you. Thank you for getting up early with us, Dane. Safe travels, and we'll talk to you down the road.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you, Dane.
That second half.
I didn't watch any of that
A&M,
game.
who was down 9 at the half, that had a 27-4 run to start the second half. Georgia, they could not score. They went 8 minutes without scoring a single point.
Jeez.
They could not score. It was unbelievable. But A&M is they're just bizarre. Because again, in conference, they've beaten, Ole Miss had them beat and blew it at the end, but they beat Texas. They beat Oklahoma twice. They've beaten LSU. They've beaten South Carolina. They've beaten Georgia, beat Missouri. But they lost to Alabama. They lost to Kentucky. They lost the one to Texas. But in the non-conference, they beat Purdue. They beat Texas Tech. They beat Creighton. But you watch them, it's just what he said. You can't go, wow, I love this team because it is so ugly. I mean, they're 298th in the nation in three-point percentage, 253rd in two-point percentage, and 302nd in free throw percentage. And they're ranked in the top 10 in the nation.
They're scrappy. They play like their coach, sweaty and sloppy. And he starts out, he looks nice, and then by the end of the game, he doesn't. We got a lot more on the SEC, on the college basketball scene, what happened nationally, including a big win for Connecticut. You knock them out of the top 25, and they come back and get a big dub. Oh, by the way, Memphis 43rd in KenPom, right behind Arkansas. Arkansas at 14-9. 45th in the net. Tomorrow, Ken Pomeroy, his long-awaited return to the show. He'll join us tomorrow at 9:30 to kind of break it down. Why is Memphis in the 40s, yet they're number 14 in both the polls? I know one has nothing to do with the other, but he can give us all the analytical explanation. This is Sports 56 Mornings.
East Coast Wings and Grill, folks. If you're thinking about great food for lunch, dinner, watching games, all of those types of things, well, East Coast Wings provides all of that. Of course, whether it be Grizzlies, whether it be Tigers, whatever it is that's on, they always have all the games on, all the SEC games, everything you can imagine. They've got those games on for you while you can enjoy some of that great food, like any of these 60 different flavors of wings available in 7 different heat indexes. So there is something for everybody when it comes to the wings, but maybe you're not a wing person. Well, they've got plenty of other great items, some absolutely fantastic burgers, flatbreads, lots of stuff to choose from on the menu at East Coast Wings Grill, plus 24 draft beers on tap, and any other things that you need drink-wise, well, they can take care of that as well. 3:30 to 6:30 Monday through Friday is happy hour, 2 for 1 on the draft beers and other drink and food specials that you could take advantage of on a daily basis with the happy hour. Located right between Lowe's and Walmart in Bartlett there in the Wolf Chase area, just off Highway 64. Kate Hyde Boulevard runs right between those two, and that's where you'll find East Coast Wings and Grill.
You're tuned in to Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Join the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin, for Wolo and Friends. Weekday mornings from 10 to 11 here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Briggs Powder Coating for a beautiful finish every time. Briggs Powder Coating specializes in automotive, ornamental, residential, and industrial coating. With 2 conveyor lines and the largest bench ovens in the Mid-South, Briggs can accommodate all of your powder coating needs. Locally owned and operated since 2002, Briggs Powder Coating will customize a beautiful finish just for you. Drop by or call to see how Briggs Powder Coating can bring color to your life. 901-367-2771 or BriggsPowderCoating.com.
I have so many people tell me they hear my ads on this station and that they want to know if I'm really as bad a golfer as everyone says. This is Sheldon Rosengarten with Mark's Bensdorf Realtors. And yes, I hate to say I am. I wish I were in my 90s because I could then tell people I shoot my age. But being a bad golfer is not terrible because I devote so much of my time to selling homes to keep my clients happy. Over the many years in the real estate business, I developed a highly successful strategic marketing program, not merely a listing program. Using preparation, presentation, and proper pricing, it works. If you're thinking of selling, talk to 2 to 3 real estate brokers and make sure that I am one of them. Find out why people often say that when you want the job done, call Shell Done. That's Shell Done Rosengarten, 483-0546 or MemphisRelocate.com. Do it now. Shell Done, 483-0546 or MemphisRelocate.com.
Hi, this is Troy Five-Ash, owner of Five-Ash Roofing. Did you know there are so many roofing companies in Memphis that I don't even know them all? So that begs the question, which one should you choose? So I thought I'd give you a little background about me. My grandfather was a World War II Marine. My father worked for the University of Memphis for nearly 30 years. My mother, a pianist at Raleigh Baptist Church. Seems like forever. I went to Brownsville Road, Craigmont, and Bartlett High School, class of 81. We support the local school systems, youth athletics, and believe in what St. Jude and Le Bonheur stand for. I'm a Tiger and Grizz fan. The point? Memphis is my home. Five-Ash Roofing will be around if you ever have a problem with the service we provide. Five-Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical, with deep local ties in our community. 367-0050 or MemphisRoofer.com.
Five-Ash Roofing is what we do. We're here for you. Now back to Sports 56 Mornings. Good morning on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Here once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
I can't stop laughing looking at this video on Twitter of Dan Hurley after Connecticut beat Creighton in Omaha last night, walking off the court, pointing his finger at the students and really all the fans, and saying, 2 rings, 2 rings, 2 rings, 2 rings, Baldy. Sees this bald guy in the audience, 2 rings, bald. He's bald. 2 rings, Baldy. Dan Hurley, some people don't like him. I love him. I absolutely love that guy. He's a breath of fresh air, and obviously he's a hell of a coach. So that was one of the big outcomes from around the nation last night.
He's a lunatic.
He's a lunatic, but a good lunatic. He's not shooting up a school. I mean, the guy is just people think he's a menace to society. No, he's not. He's a great, great coach.
It's a menace to referees.
The referees hate him. Don't count Connecticut out. They dropped out of the top 25. Never count those guys out. So that was one of the big national results. But just to kind of wrap up the SEC before we move on to some of these other games, you talked to Dane about Tennessee. Losing at Kentucky, they get swept during the regular season by the Wildcats as Kentucky improves to 17-7. Tennessee drops to 20-5, 75-64.
Lamont Butler leaving that game aggravated that shoulder injury. They cannot afford to lose him for another period of time. That's awful for them because he was making a big difference defensively for them, and he just does when he's in there. And if they lose him for another period, that's huge for Kentucky.
Well, you talked about the injury to Condon. Is that his name for Florida, the big man? And Butler, and these injuries, they start to really add up, especially as you get later in the season, and you want to have your full arsenal for the run in the tournament. Also, as we talked about, Auburn beating Vandy. Hey, Vandy came back on them after Auburn got out to the quick start. Vanderbilt came all the way back, and you thought, here we go. Here's some more magic, Memorial Gym magic. But Auburn ends up winning 80-68, and Alabama all over Texas. Texas is toast. Yeah, I meant it that way. 103-80. So you got the matchup between those two teams, number 1 versus number 2 in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. Texas A&M, we talked about how ugly that was, 69-53 over Georgia. And the Florida-Mississippi State game, as we talked about, 81-68, Florida winning in Starkville at the Hump. In the American Conference, UAB lost. They blew, this has happened a number of times this year, they blew a big lead. Lost at East Carolina, 82-75. North Texas all over Rice, 67-61. So, again, Memphis is in the driver's seat to win a regular season title. That's nice. Means nothing. The AQ goes to the tournament winner, but it's nice. It's a nice feather in your cap, but there's bigger aspirations for Memphis. But UAB, again, I think they're a decent team, but how many times can you blow a big lead?
Yeah, I mean, I guess decent, maybe you could call them, but I mean, the record shows they're not very good.
Well, you're right, and I saw them firsthand get clobbered by Memphis, so I don't know why I continue to say that, but Maybe it's just a really good player and not a really good team, but he was even held in check, as people know, in that game in Memphis. The return game in Birmingham, I expect UAB to play a better game. I don't know. Maybe I'll be wrong about that as well. But when you take a gander at the standings, Memphis now up 2 on North Texas, 2.5, actually 1.5 over North Texas, and 2 over UAB, but they've beaten both those teams. So in essence, it's 2.5 over North Texas and 3 over UAB, with 7 games to go in the regular season. Memphis at 10-1, North Texas 9-3, UAB at 8-3.
The Tigers, by the way, Temple after last night's action moved back up to number 135 in the net. So the Tigers temporarily only have 1 quad 3 loss.
Yeah, it's going to bounce back and forth with Temple. Speaking of Memphis, P.J. Haggerty named to the John Wooden Award late midseason watch list, so he's one of the top 20 finalists. What do they have, an early season, midseason, late midseason, late season, late night with David Letterman season? I mean, it's just, it's nuts, man. But Haggerty is one of the finalists, one of the top 20 remaining. I don't know if you call it finalists or not. Elsewhere around the nation, mentioned the Connecticut win. Indiana surprising Michigan State in East Lansing. Huh?
Yeah, very interesting that Tom Izzo was trying to break Bobby Knight's Big Ten's win record, and Indiana prevents that from happening. So they're like, hey, you're not going to break any of Bobby Knight's records against us. You'll have to wait and do that against somebody else.
Purdue and Michigan, great game. I had taken Purdue. They led the whole game, and then Michigan rallied in the end to win. Big win for the Wolverines there. That was 75-73. 20th ranked Michigan over number 7 Purdue. Mentioned the Connecticut win at Creighton, 70-66. A couple of other results, and I don't seem to have them here in front of me, so I have to look it up. But it was actually a pretty good night last night, I thought, in college basketball around the country. Some interesting games out west, although no surprises. Oregon, which has been leaking oil, they get a win out west last night. They knock off Northwestern 81-75 in the Big Ten. St. Mary's over Santa Clara 73-64. USC drubbed Penn State 92-67. Illinois UCLA in that vaunted Big Ten historical matchup. The Illini get a win at home 83-78 in that one. You had Iowa State over UCF, 77-65, that game in Orlando. And the red-hot Arizona Wildcats derailed at Kansas State, 73-70.
Kansas State is on fire right now, and I don't know if they can do enough to get themselves onto the bubble, but that's now 6 straight wins, including wins over Iowa State, Kansas, Arizona in that stretch. Something is clicking right now for Kansas State. They're playing great.
Yeah, it tells you how much they were struggling earlier in the year when they've won 6 straight, and their record is only 13-11 overall, 7-6 in the conference.
Well, yeah, they had lost 6 straight before that, and had lost 9 of 10 before this stretch. They have. They were 1-6 to start conference play. Now they're 7-6 in the Big 12. They do have another Iowa State game on their schedule. They've got BYU at BYU, which will be very tough coming up this weekend. But yeah, they've this has been a heck of a stretch that they are on. And again, it might be too little, too late. Mm-hmm. But they're making life miserable on some of the better teams in the Big 12.
A couple of teams that are right behind Memphis in the standings, not directly behind, but close enough. Kansas 17th. They beat Colorado 71-59 at Fog Allen. And number 18, Marquette, over DePaul 68-58. We'll take a time out, come back, hour 2 of the program. Jerry Palm will join us at 8:25. You're listening to Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
I'm Gary York. I'm the service director of Lexus in Memphis. Our service department wants to be more than just a place where you get your oil changed. We do glass repair, windshield replacement, recalibration of your camera and sonar systems, even wheel repair, tire replacement, all the things you would schedule your appointment, check out our specials, hours of operation, or if you'd like to do it in person, please reach out to one of our associates at 901-271-5199.
Hey y'all, it's the Mid-South Sports Boat and RV Show, February 14th to the 16th at the Agri Center. Come buy your new boat and make some memories at the lake this summer with family and friends. Premier dealers showcasing the newest ski boats, pontoons, fishing boats with huge show specials. Enter for your chance to win daily door prizes. It's all at the Mid-South Sports Boat and RV Show, February 14th to the 16th. For more info, go to MemphisBoatShow.com. That's MemphisBoatShow.com.
I'm so excited.
I had a feeling you'd be excited.
That doesn't even begin to describe how I feel about the new Central Barbecue location on Central.
Well, technically, it's the same location.
Same location, but a very different Central Barbecue on Central.
I get what you're saying, but I don't want to confuse people. The new Central Barbecue location on Central is the same place as the old Central Barbecue on Central.
But it's so much more. It's big, for one thing.
It is a whole lot bigger. Well, I mean, I think it has to be.
Because everybody in Memphis is going to be flocking to the new Central Barbecue location on Central.
Where the old Central Barbecue on Central used to be.
Details.
Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right and naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about everything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys, beyond the bottle, Tito's has gained a reputation for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits around the world to serve its community and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's and learn more at Tito'sVodka.com. 40% alcohol by volume, mainly 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly.
This traffic report on Sports 56 is brought to you by Palo Windows and Doors of Memphis and the Mid-South Palo Windows. The standard is affordable luxury.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good morning. Wrapping up this wreck over here. Everybody's been staring at it as they drive by 40 westbound at Whitten Road. That's why it's been running a little bit slow between Germantown Parkway and Whitten Road on 40 going westbound because of this collision. As traffic builds up through the Midtown area, I know we had that wreck earlier, southbound on 240 right near Lamar, coming the other direction, northbound. That's starting to pick up also. Again, just trying to get up through Midtown. Hey, if your lawn needs a little bit more help this time of the year, call Lawn Solutions. With over 30 years experience, Lawn Solutions 867-5626. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
WHBQ Memphis and W253DF Memphis with Brad Mooresworthy and Bryant Dacus. Weekday afternoons from 3 to 6.
Now back to Sports 56 mornings on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour is brought to you by James Gaddis Jewelers. Here once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome back to the program. Greg Gaston, Eli Savoy, Elijah Seegers with you on this Wednesday, February 12th, 2025, broadcasting live from the Family Leisure Studios. Family Leisure, their preseason pool and patio sale going on right now at 2120 Whitten Road, just north of I-40. Currently 40 degrees. You may be dealing with a little bit of fog this morning. Periods of rain. Rain will continue this afternoon, possibly another half an inch on top of what came down yesterday. Then tonight, cloudy skies early, partly cloudy after midnight, and then things will clear up a little bit. We'll see some sun tomorrow, but we will only see a high temperature of 38 degrees. The second hour of the program is brought to you each and every day by James Gaddis Jewelers, 4900 Poplar Avenue between Mendenhall and St. Nick, and on the web at GaddisJewelers.com. Yesterday, we were paid a visit by Jay Gaddis, and he talked to everybody about all the special deals and everything that's going on for Valentine's Day, which is coming up Friday. So if you're looking for a special something for a special someone, jewelry always makes sense. They have beautiful watches, all types of different rings, birthstones, and the like. They have bracelets and necklaces and earrings and pendants, plus that one-of-a-kind estate and vintage jewelry. And they have good deals. Not everything is expensive because it's jewelry. Great deals at, $200, $300, $400, $500, whatever the case may be, what you're willing to spend, they can work around your budget as well at James Gaddis Jewelers because they're family owned and operated. This is not some big conglomerate. You're going to pay the price that it says. No, not necessarily the case at James Gaddis Jewelers. They're open Monday through Friday from 10 to 5, Saturday from 10 to 4, but you got a few more days before Valentine's Day. Make your Valentine very happy with jewelry from James Gaddis Jewelers. All right, so yesterday it became official. Kellen Moore, the worst-kept secret, hired by the New Orleans Saints as their head coach. So the 7 vacancies with the NFL head coaching carousel now complete. The carousel has stopped. They'll reload next year. But we've talked already about the other previous 6, and we could throw that back in there. But where would you throw in the Kellen Moore hiring? Let me ask you this, even better. Who of the 7 coaches, and I'll go over this again, Mike Vrabel with the Patriots, Ben Johnson with the Bears, Aaron Glenn with the Jets, Pete Carroll with the Raiders, Liam Cohen with the Jaguars, Brian Schottenheimer with your Cowboys, and now Kellen Moore with the Saints. Who has the best chance for immediate impact and success, and who has the better chance or the best chance for the long-term success?
Well, I think immediately. I mean, it would have to be Jacksonville. I mean, because you're in a position in a division that's not great by any means. You've got Trevor Lawrence as your quarterback. If you can kind of get him on track and being what he's supposed to be, then I think that team can turn it around quickly. I mean, long term, it all depends on. Most of these places, it all depends on what happens at the quarterback position.
Sure.
Some that have already drafted it. Others have to go find their guy still. But it's going to be, if between Drake May and Caleb Williams and what do the Raiders do? Saints, obviously, they have Carr right now, but what's their future as far as the quarterback position goes? There's a lot to be decided on that.
I'm interested in, well, first of all, how important in the scheme of things do you believe an NFL head coach is? Extremely important, pretty important, important.
Yeah, certainly they're important. I don't know. Again, in the end, you have to have players. Like whatever sport it is, I don't care who you are. If you don't have players, you're not going to win. And I mean, is Nick Sirianni a great coach, or did he just have great players who dominated the line of scrimmage on both sides? I don't know.
Every time one of these national pundits talk about NFL coaches, they always bring up Mike Tomlin and say Mike Tomlin himself is worth about 4 wins. Mike Tomlin's a great coach. Is Mike Tomlin, that's what I'm asking, are coaches that important? Is Mike Tomlin worth about 4 wins? What did the Steelers end up this year? Elijah, do you remember what their record was?
I think they were 10-7.
Yeah, they're 9-8 or 10.
So are they a 6-win team without Mike Tomlin coaching? I mean, I think Mike Tomlin certainly makes a difference. I don't know if I can put a win total to it, but my question is Pete Carroll. The Raiders have a lot of things they got to fix. Right now, we know they're not a good football team. Pete Carroll's a proven head coach. Now you got Tom Brady and his background and experience to help out in certain ways. He's not coaching the team, but being a part owner of the team. Obviously, his experiences can help a lot of young players. But Pete Carroll, could all of a sudden the Raiders, I'm not saying the Raiders are going to the Super Bowl, but how much improvement will there be? And if there is a ton of improvement, sure, it's the Jimmies and the Joes that he's bringing in there as well, but a lot of it falls on Carroll. Long term, can the Patriots get back to even close to what they were? Even if they're close to what they were, that's going to be a very productive franchise. And they're going to try to do it with Mike Vrabel, who I think has already proven himself as a good NFL head coach. These other guys certainly could be. Aaron Glenn is a proven defense coordinator. Great DC. Will he be a great head coach in a dysfunctional situation like the New York Jets? Or how about these young coaches? The hotshot, Ben Johnson, comes in. Kellen Moore, again, hotshot offensive coordinator. can they lead two bad teams, but have some promising players? The Bears certainly do. So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting because you don't lose coaches normally when your team had successful years. Nick Sirianni's not leaving to go somewhere else. Andy Reid, even though a disappointing Super Bowl, is not shipping out of Kansas City. So most of the time when you have an opening, if not all the time, it's going to be a team that struggled or there was some dysfunction, miscommunication between the ownership and the coach, rubs the owner the wrong way. He decides to abruptly make a change. But most of the time, it's just wins and losses or lack thereof. So you got teams that are bad and organizations sometimes, like in the Jets case, that are dysfunctional.
Well, when you look at the coordinators, history will tell you that some of them are going to fail. Like, you can be a great coordinator, hotshot guy. You go get that head coaching opportunity, it doesn't work out. And again, it's not going to be all your fault necessarily. It didn't work out. It'll be players and things like that. Mm-hmm. But you just, we look at a guy like Josh McDaniels, who's had a couple of opportunities and it just hasn't worked at all for him to be a head coach. But seems to be really good coordinator. It's happened throughout history. So is Ben Johnson a great head coach? I don't know. We'll find out. Aaron Glenn, we'll find out. Liam Cohen, we'll find out what they are as head coaches. We know they're really good coordinators, and but you have no idea once you're the guy in charge whether you can motivate. In a lot of ways, delegate responsibility, all of those things that you have to do that's different when you can just focus on, hey, I go out here and I can be as creative as I want offensively, all of these things. I mean, Dan Campbell, I think, gets guys to play really hard and enjoy playing for him. He also, he makes a lot of decisions that other head coaches wouldn't, going for it on fourth downs, those types of things. When you've got a really good team, it's a little easier to do that, and it makes you look better. When you've got that great offense, you don't have that, you start making those decisions, and you start getting stopped constantly on fourth down, then you get a little more criticism for that.
Assuming these 7 new head coaches are given more than a year, and that's not a definite anymore in this society, whether it's college or the NFL, that a coach is automatically going to get a second year. But let's assume that all of them are back next year, no matter what their struggles are. There's always going to be a turnover of anywhere from 4 to 7 coaches every year. There's going to be turnover. So, Elijah, you can jump in on this as well. What coaches do you think go into the 2025 season with a chance to lose their jobs if it's a bad year? You can pull up the standings, take a look. Look at the teams and tell me who you think the best chances are around the league that those head coaches currently with their respective teams could lose their gig.
Well, the obvious was Brian Daboll. I mean, that whole regime, front office, coach, everybody is going to be
last chance, right,
on the hot seat as far as they are concerned.
I agree with that 100%. That's got to be the one, number one. I know a new GM's coming in. It'll be year 2 for Brian Callahan. If Tennessee doesn't show any improvement, what do you think, Elijah? Could they make a move that quick?
I don't know, just strictly because of expectations not being very high. I think it would be a little unfair to grade him off of that, but who knows?
Yeah, unfair or fairness doesn't matter.
Could they? Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, could they? I agree with you. They probably wouldn't if they show a little bit of sign of improvement, but if they just stink up the joint, go 2-15, I mean, they'll make a change, I think, at a drop of a hat.
Who about else? Mike McDaniel from the Dolphins?
Yeah, that's a guy. I don't get the whole Mike McDaniel thing. I just don't. But they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. They're committed to Tua Tagovailoa, who is a very good quarterback. But there's 2 problems. One, he's often injured. The concussions are things that, people were saying he should have walked away and retired. The other thing is, and this isn't just fallacy, he doesn't win in cold places. They don't. The Dolphins don't, and he don't leading the way. So McDaniel could be in trouble. we saw the Hard Knocks with him. He freaks me out, man. He's a weird cat, but I would think he would be. How about
Stefanski?
Yeah, I was just going to bring up Stefanski.
Steichen, and in the NFL again, if you have a really bad year, especially if you have 2 in a row, you're absolutely got a chance to lose your job.
Okay, I'll bring up one that might sound crazy. How about if Buffalo fails again to get to the Super Bowl? Could they dump McDermott?
I mean, if they lost first round of the playoffs, maybe, but if they go to the AFC Championship game and lose again, I don't think there's any chance.
Mm-hmm. And what about in Arizona? Who's that, Gannon out there now?
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't been given a lot of time, but Arizona was a game under 500. They weren't bad. But that'll be interesting to see because there's going to be turnover. That you could take to the bank. There always is. Now, speaking of turnover, Matt Patricia was once a head coach in the NFL and a longtime defensive coordinator. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, he interviewed for Ohio State's defensive coordinator job. We know that Hartline was elevated from his position coach duties to the defensive coordinator, replacing Jim Knowles, who went to Penn State. Now they're looking to replace Chip Kelly. I'm sorry, the opposite. Hartline offense, obviously. He replaced Chip Kelly. Now they're trying to replace Jim Knowles, and Matt Patricia is the one who was interviewed. Makes sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Patricia's been doing since he got fired in Detroit, and I don't know what his college background is. But, I mean, certainly a guy who learned defense under Bill Belichick shouldn't be a bad thing.
He was a senior defensive assistant with the Eagles in 23. This past year, I don't know if he didn't go down there to he wasn't with Day as an analyst or anything like that, right? I wasn't on the staff. I don't see what he did in 24. Now, obviously before that, Patriots, and in between the Lions head coaching gig from 18 to 20, but a long, long tenure with the Patriots. I don't know what he did last year in 24. But anyway, Matt Patricia is a name and certainly being given a lot of consideration from Ryan Day. All right.
And I don't know what his relationship is with Day. If there's, I mean, a lot of
they brought him in.
A lot of these go back to they coached together way back when or whatever. I don't know if there's a previous relationship between Patricia. I know very little about Matt Patricia other than the fact that he was with the Patriots, and he turned out in his head coaching stint was a train wreck.
Yeah, I don't think it's a token interview. I'm sure there's even if there isn't a past relationship, and there probably is. I mean, these coaches are all close. Seems like one big family. But even if there isn't, I mean, the respect for Patricia as a defensive mind is there, or they wouldn't have brought him in for an interview. Not doing a token interview with Patricia. So anyway, we'll see what happens there as Ohio State tries to fill the other coordinator position. We opened the show talking Grizzlies. The Grizzlies, if you didn't watch, if you didn't stay up late last night, they beat the Suns 119-112. They improved to 36-17. They'll be on the road again tonight in Los Angeles against the Clippers. And then it's All-Star Weekend. You know, February is crazy busy for being the shortest month of the year in the world of sports. When you think about what's going on in February, from the Super Bowl to the NBA All-Star Weekend to pitchers and catchers reporting to Daytona. The Daytona 500 is this Sunday. So you have the NBA All-Star Game Sunday night at the Chase Center in San Francisco. You have the Daytona 500 as well going on, the Great American Race. But the activities begin on Friday, if I'm not mistaken, out in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
So the Rising Stars playing. You got Jalen Wells. You have Zach Edey representing the Grizzlies, and Jaren Jackson Jr., of course, in the All-Star games, if you will. And there's a chance, who knows? Wells and Edey are on the same team in the Rising Stars. if they end up winning that, they would be the fourth team that would participate in the All-Star games on Sunday. And I say plural because it is games.
They announced the matchups. The first round, the semifinal games will be Chuck's team versus Kenny's team, and then Shaq's team against the Rising Stars winners will be the first round matchups for the actual All-Star games on Sunday. So,
and Edie and Wells are on Team Kenny, right?
No, Jared Jackson.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's what I meant.
Edie and Wells are on the Rising Stars.
That's right. Jared Jackson.
Hoping to be the winner on the Rising Stars team that actually advances.
It's confusing. I got to be honest with you. I don't know if I'm going to like this. I didn't like the past All-Star games here in recent history where the score was 198 to 192 because nobody wanted to play defense. Yeah, they always said they played hard defense the last 5 minutes. Pfft. The All-Star games back in the day, and I'm sorry, get off my lawn, they actually played. They played to win. They played physical. They played a regular basketball game. Same deal with the NFL, with the old Pro Bowl games. They actually played. I understand we live in a different world. Nobody wants to get hurt in an exhibition game. I get it. But I don't know if I'm going to dig this. I'll watch it. I'll give it a shot. Maybe I'll fall in love with it. Maybe I won't. But
I'll go on a limb and say you won't.
Well, it's bad when you know every single year they're trying to tweak it. And Adam Silver had to come out and talk about why they changed it again this year, and not unlike the Pro Bowl. Again, every single year it seems like they got to change things, they got to add things, they got to make it somewhat enjoyable for people to watch. I didn't watch the Pro Bowl 1 second. I didn't watch any of the other things leading up to the Pro Bowl game. I will watch Friday night. I don't think I have anything going on. I will watch, especially with the Rising Stars, and there's 2 Memphis Grizzlies players. And I will watch Sunday night, these All-Star games, and maybe I'll like it. Do they have the All-Star Saturday night still with the dunk contest, the three-point shooting and all that? Okay. That's fun. That's not a bad thing. I know people pan the slam dunk competition. I don't really care either way. It's not like it used to be when the big stars did it, but I love the three-point shooting. I love some of the other things they do. Then they'll have the celebrity game. That's always a hoot. So there's a lot of things I do like about All-Star Weekend. The actual game, in recent years, I did not. Will I like the actual games this year? Maybe.
By the way, congratulations to Kevin Durant last night going over the 30,000-point mark, becoming the 8th player to pass that 30,000-point mark. Surprisingly enough, the 3rd to do it on the free throw line.
Yeah, that's anticlimactic in a sense. Can you name the other 7?
It's LeBron, Kareem, Malone, Kobe, Michael, Dirk. How many did I say?
You said 6.
And who's the other one?
Going back. Got to go back. Got to go back in time.
Wilt.
There you go. Did Wilt have more points or more conquests, if you know what I mean? I think points. But it's close.
Had a lot of points. He averaged a lot of points.
He had a lot of conquests, too, according to him.
He was pretty good. He put up some big numbers.
How he somebody was able to put up the big numbers.
Somebody put up one, like a box score from one of his games the other day, like it was on that date that it happened. It was like 50 points, 30 rebounds, like 15 assists and 15 blocks or something like that. What in the world was going on? Like how in the world do you have box scores that look like that?
He was just an athletic freak, and he was so damn big, and there weren't a lot of big guys. I mean, certainly tall guys in the sense of 6'3", 6'4" was huge back then. Now we got guys that are 7'3", 7'5". It's a lot different. But when he played, Russell wasn't huge. Kevin Durant's way taller than Bill Russell was. I think Bill Russell's 6'9", 6'10". Wilt was big. I mean, he was a big dude for that time. He was huge. Playing today, I mean, Wilt would be one of the bigger guys, but certainly there would be guys that were bigger. And you had tall guys like Mikan and stuff, but they weren't big physical guys. I mean, he just absolutely it doesn't take anything away from his skills. He was so athletic. But, man, he dominated because guys were just small. Played centers like Nate Thurman. I mean, Nate Thurman was a great rebounder and a Hall of Famer himself, but probably was 6'8", 6'9". He was just way bigger than everybody else.
Fleet Feet, the place to go to get all your running gear. You want to make sure you get shoes that are just right for you? Well, go see the folks at Fleet Feet. They will take care of you. They take a look at the way you run or the way you walk, and then they fit you with shoes that are just right for you. A lot of people don't even buy the right size shoes. Well, they're going to make sure that those shoes that you get at Fleet Feet are absolutely the right ones for you. Plus, any other gear, well, they've got you taken care of, from shorts to shirts to socks to hat, whatever. They've got it all for you at Fleet Feet, and they've got 2 locations to take care of you in East Memphis. They're in the Laurelwood Shopping Center out in Collierville. Poplar and Houston Levy right next door to the Hueys. You could go see them at either one of the 2 locations. You can find them online at fleetfeetmemphis.com, on social media as well, where they'll keep you up to date with things they've got going on. Of course, they sponsor a lot of races. They do their own group runs and other things that you can get involved with. They are just all about the running community and runners in general at Fleet Feet.
When we come back, Jerry Palm and his latest bracketology. This is Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Briggs Powder Coating for a beautiful finish every time. Briggs Powder Coating specializes in automotive, ornamental, residential, and industrial coating. With 2 conveyor lines of the largest match ovens in the Mid-South, Briggs can accommodate all of your powder coating needs. Locally owned and operated since 2002, Briggs Powder Coating will customize a beautiful finish just for you. Drop by or call to see how Briggs Powder Coating can bring color to your life. 901-367-2771 or BriggsPowderCoating.com.
Attention homeowners, it's time to score big with Choate's Air Conditioning, Heating, Plumbing, and Generators. For the first 50 callers who purchase a new carrier system, generator, or tankless water heater, choose between 60 months of no-interest financing or free air duct cleaning, a $500 value. Plus, don't miss our $39 February deals. Choose from a furnace tune-up, a sewer inspection, or an electrical panel inspection. It's the perfect way to prepare your home for the season. But hurry, this winning deal ends February 28th. Don't fumble this opportunity to claim these amazing offers. Call Choates today at 347-8086. And remember, Choates, let our family serve your family.
Jenkins Floors and More invite you to their retail warehouse where they pass wholesale savings on to you. Jenkins Floors in Little Rock, Cleveland, Mississippi, and now open in Horn Lake at 2356 West Goodman Road. Specializing in flooring and carpeting, tile, plantation shutters, and blinds, Jenkins makes your life easy with a 2-week turnaround. Contractors, builders, or family projects, call 662-469-9350 for a free estimate. Owners Timmy and Rebecca Jenkins say hello to Sports 56 fans and look forward to your business.
You get the best of Memphis for lunch and dinner at Elwood Shack. Choose from house pastrami, corned beef, smoked turkey, roast beef, roast pork, beef brisket, and pulled shoulders, all made in-house. Elwood's fresh baked bread is delivered daily only in our bakery in Cordova, and all Elwood's cakes and sweet treats come from Frost Bakery. Open daily for lunch and dinner at Elwood Shack on summer in the Lowe's parking lot. And the newest Elwood's at 4045 and plus you are there. Get the best of Memphis anywhere else at Elwood Shack.
Listen each and every Sunday morning at 11 to join Ottawa Presbyterian Church for worship. Ottawa CPC Church, downtown Memphis. Sports 56 traffic.
Good morning. They're still working this wreck on 240 westbound. It's going to be just past Walnut Grove. It's been busy over there this time of the morning between Poplar and Walnut Grove in both directions, especially going westbound. It's finally moving a little bit better on 40 westbound at Whitten Road where we had that earlier collision as that traffic continues to build over there on that side of town as it continues to be heavy at times. 40 west coming in from Fayette County. Weimer's Jewelry, 7525 Highway 64 is your Valentine's Day headquarters. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Now back to Sports 56 mornings on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour is brought to you by James Gaddis Jewelers. Diamonds are forever. Here once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
Welcome back, everyone. 8:29 the time. Halfway home on this Hump Day edition of Sports 56 Mornings. Greg Gaston, Eli Savoy, and Elijah Seegers. And now about to be joined by Jerry Palm.
It's time for Sports 56 Mornings Weekly Chat with Jerry Palm, college football and basketball writer and bracketologist for CBSSports.com. Here are Greg, Eli, and Jerry.
He is Jerry Palm, CBS Sports, CBSSports.com. You can follow him on Twitter at JPPalmCBS. Listen to him every single Wednesday during both the college basketball, college football seasons, talking with us right here on Sports 56 Mornings. Hey, JP, how are you?
All right, how are you?
I put the whammy on your Boilermakers last night. I threw a little coin on them. They had to lead the whole game. Yeah, I know. I take the blame. I did it. They had to lead the whole time. I turn around and they lost. Okay.
Yeah. Well, they're both bigs got in foul trouble in the second half. They weren't really getting much production off the bench. And give Michigan credit for continuing to fight. The right team won in the end.
Is Braden first team All-American?
Should be, but you never know. It's a big country. We got a lot of great players.
It's a big country.
But yeah, he should be. He should be the point guard of the year. He's just incredible. It's amazing what someone my size can do on a basketball floor. He's a very special player, and I think people are now learning that it wasn't just Zach Edey last year because Braden Smith had a lot to do with last year's success.
You have Michigan in your last one as a 4 seed. What do you think Michigan's kind of ceiling is if they're able to win the Big Ten?
Well, win the Big Ten isn't really a thing. How many more losses do they take before they've won the Big Ten?
Well, yeah, winning the Big Ten tournament, obviously, and obviously.
Okay, but even then, what else did they do? To win the Big Ten tournament, what did they do before that? Their ceiling is probably not super high, but it's certainly not a 1. It wouldn't seem. I think it's more likely, if they play their best, they're not going to win all the way out. If they win all the way out, well, now maybe we are talking about in the picture for a 1, but most likely a 2.
Is Tennessee, with now a second loss to Kentucky, going to play themselves out of a first seed?
Maybe, but it's not over yet. Those teams at the top of that league are going to be playing good teams the rest of the way.
Right.
And, Tennessee gets hot and they end up winning the SEC tournament or the regular season title. They could still be a 1. It's not as unrealistic as Michigan being a 1.
Right. Now, there's only a few mediocre teams. I don't even want to say bad, but a few mediocre teams in the SEC.
2, precisely.
Okay, so it would be South Carolina, LSU.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody else should beat those 2.
Okay. If you lose to one of those, I'm not saying that's crippling by any stretch of the imagination, but that hurts you. That's one that could knock you down.
It does because it hurts you relative to the other teams in your league.
Right.
Right. And you've got a lot of good teams in your league that you're competing with for spots. The bracket I did Monday, 5 of the top 6 teams were in the SEC. Duke is the only interloper, and Purdue is right behind them. It's a very strong top of the league now. By the time it's all over, that level of concentration at the top of the bracket is unlikely. As they beat each other up. I also had the last 3 teams in, so I had 14 total, and the last 3 teams in were SEC teams. And I really think in the end that total number is going to be closer to 11 than 14.
Has any league in the past produced 5 of the top 8 seeds?
I can't remember such a case. I'd have to look, though. I would say off the top of my head, no, that hasn't happened.
And 2 of those teams that were amongst your last 4 lost last night. Both got blown out last night, as a matter of fact, Georgia and Texas. Arkansas didn't play. In your last bracket, I know you didn't have them in the bracket, but they're in their first 4 out. Are we close to killing off Pitt yet? I can't. I'm so tired of seeing Pitt lose games and still be near the bracket.
You know, to be honest, I'm having a lot of trouble with the last 4 in, and people ask for the first 4 out, and then people are asking me for the next 4 out. I have a lot of trouble finding 4 teams worth putting on any kind of list. When you go past the end of the bracket, I can get to like 5, maybe 6, but 8 teams worthy of putting on a list is really hard.
Yet they want to add teams to the tournament?
Yep. Oh gosh, it just yeah.
And Pitt, by the way, destroyed by SMU last night. That's 4 straight losses.
Yeah. That's SMU's best win, by the way, which is why they're not in the bracket.
One team, I don't know that they can. Kansas State get to the bubble?
Yeah, but they have to. They had to get hot. Now that they're hot, they have to stay hot because they've got 3 quad 3 losses. I mean, their profile still isn't bubble worthy, even after these 3 wins. So that just shows you how much damage they did to themselves.
Oh, it was terrible
over the first 2.5 months of the season. So they've gotten hot. They're making a run. They have to continue to make that run. The Big 12 is going to give them chances to resume build, but they've got a lot of negatives to erase.
One team that's been hot, they picked up some big wins recently, is Clemson. You had them as a 7 seed on Monday. They're really helping the cause. I don't know where they were, but they're certainly going in the right direction.
Yeah, Clemson had been a middle of the bracket team, like in the 8-9 seed range before they beat Duke, which obviously is a big feather in their cap. And then continued it with the 20-point win over North Carolina. In a game that North Carolina really needed, and just not only didn't get, but just didn't show again. But yeah, Clemson is is really separated itself as the second best team in the ACC. Louisville's been up there too, but Clemson's the one that's making a move right now. And then once you get past Louisville, I mean it's barren. I mean, a couple other teams may end up making it, but
it seems so strange to talk about the ACC, and I'm thinking back to the historical ACC when I went to school at Maryland, and Jerry Palm using the term barren with the ACC. I mean, every team for years and years was damn good, and now they're bad. It's just a bad conference, with the exception of Duke and Clemson. Man, that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, Duke and Carolina were always a constant, and now Carolina's not even a constant.
Right. Right. Well,
even Clemson,
Maryland, they were all constants. Yeah.
Clemson's success is kind of hit or miss, but hitting this year, but
right.
And they were good last year too. It's been a couple years in a row, or maybe even 3 for Clemson, but yeah, Duke is like the only. It's hard to even think of Carolina as a blue blood anymore. I mean, they are, I suppose. Indiana is, but Carolina has had some recent history still. But they're so, but Indiana has not. Indiana, although they got a big win last night, but that's a program that hasn't done anything in 2 generations of note, and it's still thought of as a blue blood.
Yeah, say because Carolina. Indiana has been much worse than Carolina. I mean, Carolina's at least had the tournament.
Yeah, they were in the Final Four a couple
years ago. Not even close. Not even close.
Along with as bad as it is, the conference, like how many more could Duke lose in conference and still be safe as a number 1 seed?
1.
Which it's hard to find a conference. Now they do have an Illinois game Non-conference.
Yeah, that Illinois game is going to be interesting. Boy, let's talk about a random non-conference game.
Yes.
It's been a while since you saw random non-conference games and during once conference play starts. But, that's although isn't that Madison Square Garden?
It is on a neutral.
There's nothing neutral about Duke at Madison Square Garden. But that's a random game, at a weird time, and I wonder how it'll affect both of them. Will they be focused on it? Because it's you're in the middle of conference play. It's hard to wrap your get your brain into non-conference mode again, and then go right back to conference play.
Yeah. There's nothing neutral about St. John's playing at Madison Square Garden, but right now, Madison Square Garden, it doesn't matter where they're playing. St. John's and Rick Pitino. Rick Pitino's got to certainly be way up there for Coach of the Year. The Johnnies have been fantastic and lead the Big East. What is their ceiling? And then tell me about the rest of that league. How many you got in? Because obviously you had Connecticut drop out of the top 25 this week and then beat Creighton last night on the road.
Yeah.
So what do you see in the Big East, and what about specifically St. John's?
I mean, St. John's, Marquette, Creighton, and UConn. And it's hard to see anyone else. There's just a gap between them and the rest of the league. And Creighton and UConn are middle of the bracket teams. Marquette has fallen off a little bit, was off to a great start. And then St. John's, they were, something like 20-3 and hadn't beaten anybody better than Xavier.
Oh,
and
really?
Then,
okay.
Yeah, until 2 games ago. And then they beat Marquette at home, and they win at UConn. And now they've got 2, really legitimate wins that you can hang. So I had St. John's like as a 8 seed. That's something in 3 before they beat Marquette. And now that they beat Marquette and UConn, I've got them up to a 4. But you understand, their resume is really light compared to a lot of these other teams in the quality win department, although they now have 2. And, of course, they have 2 more games, with Marquette and UConn, and they have a home and home still with Creighton. So, they've got their schedule's just backloaded. They're just finally getting to it.
And like a team like Villanova just did so much damage early with bad losses.
Yeah, and Xavier too. I mean, those are teams that normally you can count on at least competing for a spot, and neither one of them are really doing that.
Did you hear what Rick Pitino had to say in the last day? It may have been yesterday or 2 days ago, that the Big East should be basically jumping and seizing an opportunity now to expand their conference and to add teams like Memphis. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, if they want to add more quality, yes. Because it's a basketball league, right? So they don't have to worry about football.
Mm-hmm.
If they can get, teams, Memphis doesn't really fit the profile of the league, though. It's are they all Catholic schools? I think they are.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the profile, but they're looking. He's basically talking about expanding that profile. Although St. Louis, I think they would fit the profile, right?
They would, but
Dayton
are they
wouldn't.
good enough?
Dayton's I don't think they're religious oriented.
Yeah, they are. I believe they are.
Yeah, are they good enough? That's the question. But he thinks, I guess, that if they make it even. It's a really good conference now. Some of the teams not playing up to their ability, like you said. But they're usually really good. They're usually like 7 deep in quality basketball teams. But he's talking about going up, adding a few, maybe 4, make it more attractive to network partners. I don't know. It's not a bad idea. There's a lot of things that Memphis. Even if that thing would materialize, would the American Conference allow Memphis to play all the rest of their sports, including football? Because what would happen if you lost the conference affiliation? Right. There's a lot of things that play into it, but I understand what he's saying. He's basically saying we're the Big East. We should be talked about like the Big Ten and the SEC, but certainly not this year.
No, but they're not bad. If 4 of their teams make the tournament, that's half the league. That's 4 out of 9. So 4 and 5, that's basically half. So, it's. That's not bad. It's just that they're a smaller league.
Right. No. Yeah, and he's talking about adding 3 right off the bat. So I forgot they have 9, so that would be 12. Yeah, there you go, an even number.
Yeah. Yeah, if they can do it, but I don't think he's going to find his, the administrators looking to add schools that aren't
exactly
Catholic schools,
Exactly. All right.
Connecticut. You got Connecticut in there.
Yeah, but
that's right.
Yeah,
gosh, man, I forgot about Connecticut.
but Dan Hurley says GDs all the time, man. He's a really
yeah, I forgot about UConn.
He's a God-fearing
coach. I'm pretty sure UConn's not a Catholic.
Yeah,
school.
you're right about that.
Jerry, is it this weekend that the committee does the top 16?
Yes, that'll be Saturday. CBS 12:30 Eastern for the first half hour, the committee portion of the show, and then the rest of the bracket, which I provide, is on CBS Sports Network at 1 o'clock Eastern. So right after it.
Do you? You have them in as a number 4. So do you think Memphis will be in their top 16?
Maybe. I think they have a chance to. Do they play? They haven't played this
They
week,
play
have
tomorrow. They play South Florida tomorrow.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
okay.
assuming
they
they
gotta
win that one, obviously.
2 road games, South Florida tomorrow.
That would be assuming they win
Wichita
at South
State,
Florida.
yeah.
Obviously,
they got to win
lose
tomorrow
Yeah,
to be part of that conversation. But yeah, I mean, I think that they'd have a shot. Yes.
That's right.
I
Wichita
mean, I've
State
had
would
them.
be
I've
after
had
the,
them. I've had them as a 4 seed now for a couple of weeks.
Yes, you
I wanna
have.
say.
You've been pretty consistent. Some of the other dudes have dropped into a 5. I think Lenardi's got him as a 5. You've been very consistent once you've moved him in at number 4. And again, we have this conversation all the time. The metrics and what we actually see with our eyes and the resume, to me, they're 45 in the net and 43 in Ken Palm. By the way, shameless plug, Ken Pomeroy on the show tomorrow at 9:30. You look at the metrics and all that, and you go, wait, there's 44 teams better than Memphis or have a better resume? I don't think so. I know it doesn't always work out that way. I get it. But you are looking at the resume, and you are looking at what they have done. And when you've chalked up the wins that they have had, it certainly is a feather in their cap and why they are where they are. It's certainly not their conference wins, even though they're 10-1. But I think they're going to be a very curious team when it comes to Selection Sunday if they continue on this road.
Yeah. So when you see a net ranking that doesn't seem to make sense, like I don't think anybody would reasonably think Memphis is no better than the 45th best team, right?
Right.
But if you see a metric like that, especially in the net or Ken Palm, that doesn't make sense, go find a list of the average scoring margin, and you'll see in this case that Memphis does not do well in that metric. And that metric, I'm not saying that they depend a lot on scoring margin, but those metrics, the net, Ken Palm, they correlate very well to average scoring margin.
Right.
So teams that have either too high or too low net rankings for what you look at as what they've done, it's almost always because they're either doing especially well in scoring margin or especially poorly in scoring margin.
By the way, Jerry, Florida's had a heck of a week. They obviously beat Auburn on the road, and then last night they beat Mississippi State on the road. How close are they to the number 1 line?
I wouldn't be surprised to find them there. I mean, I almost had them there Monday. I would probably have them there tomorrow. My next bracket will be tomorrow instead of Friday of the show. I'm doing another one basically for Saturday. So I'll do Thursday, Saturday this week.
Could very well flip-flop with Tennessee.
Yes. Yeah, with Tennessee.
Are you going tux, tails, and a top hat for the show?
That would probably be a bit much. Yeah, probably a bit much.
All right.
I think I'll just go with the regular suit and tie. And the reason that my show, my part of the show, the second half of the show moves to CBS Sports Network is because the Purdue game, the Purdue-Wisconsin game, is on at 1 o'clock.
Oh, they're screwing you. Your alma mater screwing you from the big CBS.
So I'm going to miss the first half of the game, which is probably just as well.
Going head-to-head with Purdue.
Yeah, you look at it that way. I look at it, man. Come on, we need Jerry on the big boy network. But you'll be on either way. You can check out Jerry. It's a big day Saturday. We'll see if Memphis is in that top 16. And again, Jerry will update his bracketology tomorrow, as he said, at cbssports.com. We'll talk about it next Wednesday once again. Follow him on Twitter at JPPalmCBS. Enjoy, have fun this weekend, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Jerry.
Folks, when you're ready to exercise, the exercise coach is there and ready for you in both Lakeland and Collierville locations. This is state-of-the-art, scientifically based strength training. As you age, you lose certain muscles. This is strength training designed to retain and also build those muscles, targeted at those muscles that you lose as you age. It is with the help of a coach that is there to do this. And the equipment is unbelievable. The technology is crazy. It is how good this stuff is, specially designed for this stuff. And they, you start by doing working from a basis of testing your strength, exactly where you are, to have a baseline that you're going to work from, and then you see the results as you go along. And it only takes 20 minutes twice a week. That's right, 20 minutes twice a week. So 40 total minutes a week that you could set aside for this, and you're going to get stronger, and you're going to also see the results right there in front of your eyes on a daily basis when you're in there on this equipment. Absolutely. You can get, just for signing up, you can get 2 free workouts, so you could see it, test it out, check it out for yourself, see the technology, and see what it's all about at the Exercise Coach. Go to exercisecoach.com/Lakeland or exercisecoach.com/Collierville. We got 2 locations, and again, just for signing up, 2 free workouts, and you could check this out for yourself with the Exercise Coach.
Jalen Hurts headed up the parade in Disney World as the MVP of the Super Bowl, but there is another Eagle who believes that maybe he should have been the guy in Disney World. We'll tell you about that when we return. This is Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
I'm so excited.
I had a feeling you'd be excited.
That doesn't even begin to describe how I feel about the new Central Barbecue location on Central.
Well, technically, it's the same location.
Same location, but a very different Central Barbecue on Central.
I get what you're saying, but I don't want to confuse people. The new Central Barbecue location on Central is the same place as the old Central Barbecue on Central.
But it's so much more. It's big, for one thing.
It is a whole lot bigger. Well, I mean, I think it has to be.
Because everybody in Memphis is going to be flocking to the new Central Barbecue location on Central.
Where the old Central Barbecue on Central used to be.
Details.
Andy Wise here. For 6 years, I've endorsed Pella Windows and Doors of Memphis and the Mid-South as the standard in affordable luxury. Now get this. Pella just got more affordable. 12 months, no interest, no payments on what Consumer Reports has rated the highest quality windows on the planet, plus 50% off installation. That includes consumer guarantees no other window company will ever match. You have my word. You'll make the wise choice when you choose Pella Windows and Doors of Memphis and the Mid-South.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-445-6363. That's 1-800-445-6363. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-445-6363. That's 1-800-445-6363.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at selectquote.com/commercials.
It's putt-putt time. The weather's getting right for a little time outside. Putt-Putt Golf and Games Driving Range is a good place to be. At Putt-Putt Driving Range, $10 get you a small bucket of balls, use of the channels, home grades, and home tracer. There are even senior rates available. Putt-Putt Golf and Games Driving Range. 54 Summer Avenue. Putt-Putt Driving Range. 901-386-2992. Putt-Putt Driving Range. It's putt-putt time.
Now back to Sports 56 Mornings on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour is brought to you by James Gaddis Jewelers.
Don't you just love it?
Here once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
Jerry Palm just texted me, said Memphis ranks 71st in average scoring margin. Again, that has been the recurring theme about margin of victory, which is something that's a big part of the analytics for the net, Ken Pomeroy, and all those. But to me, again, if that is high on the list for the selection committee, I think that's ridiculous. Because you can have a big lead, you could bring in subs, the lead dissipates. That's not been the case pretty much with Memphis. They would get up by 10 or 12, and then instead of going to 20, they would go the other way. It is what it is, but they're winning, and they're winning at times big when they seem to be all in tune, when it's UAB, when it's Florida Atlantic, when it's any of the big non-conference opponents. But they're being penalized for that, to be honest with you. They're being penalized.
Some news for a former Tiger, Damian Baugh, getting a two-way contract with Charlotte, according to Shams.
Congratulations.
He's been unbelievably good in the G League. I think leading the league in assists right now. But apparently Charlotte giving him a two-way deal, so good for Damian. Today, or coming up later this morning, the Hustle have another one of their Education Day games against Mexico City at 10:30. David Jones, or as he's known now, David Jones Garcia, who's averaging about 20 a game for Mexico City coming off the bench, will be here and in action for the Capitanes against the Hustle.
Oh, great. So now going with the David Jones Garcia. That's very nice. Speaking of guys who have kind of altered or changed back their names, Chris Douglas Roberts goes by Supreme Bay now. He's going into the M Club Hall of Fame. I think that's this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. Well-deserved, joining the University of Memphis M Club Hall of Fame. But I know you'll be leaving here in a few minutes to broadcast that game as the Memphis Hustle will be back in action. So Jalen Hurts, no problem, MVP, great job leading the Eagles to the Super Bowl 59 win. Josh Sweat says, I should have had it. I could have had it. It's all good, though. You look at the numbers for Josh Sweat. Now, Josh Sweat. I was about to go sweaty balls. Josh Sweat had 2.5 sacks. He had 6 tackles and frequently pressured Patrick Mahomes. Now, it also helped that everybody around him was really good too, so they were doing their job. But Josh Sweat was a one-man wrecking crew at times, right? Again, that defense was awesome. He could have gotten it, but Jalen Hurts, with what he was able to do as they went in with a game plan to stop or slow down Barkley, he had to beat him, and he did with his arm and with his legs. Defensive MVPs in the Super Bowl, Elijah, how many?
There have been 10 defensive Super Bowl MVPs all time, and we have a lot of Dallas Cowboy representation here. Going back to Chuck Howley, Super Bowl 5, we have Harvey Martin and Randy White both winning co-Super Bowl MVPs as defensive linemen in Super Bowl 12. We have Jake Scott with the Miami Dolphins, a safety from Super Bowl 7. Richard Dent, the defensive lineman, Super Bowl 20 with the Chicago Bears. Larry Brown, not to be confused with Coach Larry Brown, Super Bowl 30 with Dallas, 2 interceptions. And, of course, once we get to the 2000s, we have Ray Lewis. We have Dexter Jackson, a cornerback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who had 2 interceptions in the first half of that Super Bowl. Malcolm Smith, a linebacker with the Seattle Seahawks, part of the Legion of Boom. And Von Miller was the last one to do it back in 2015 with Denver.
So a pretty good share of MVPs that are on the defensive end. Obviously, it's not even with the offense. It's not 25-25, but that's more than I thought. I knew some of those, and then I forgot a couple of the other ones. But, yeah, it's a good representation.
Sweat had a very good argument. He could have very easily won it. But in the end, Jalen Hurts was the game's leading passer and the game's leading rusher.
Yes.
And he had he accounted for 3 touchdowns. Like, if he hadn't been the leading rusher in the game too, maybe, but like that, and because a lot of people make the argument that, I mean, Philadelphia what won the game was their defense. So again, I would have had no problem giving it to him, or who was the other one that had 2 sacks? There were 2 of them that had 2 sacks. I would have had no problem. But Hurts, very few have been the game's leading passer and the game's leading rusher, and so that's generally going to win you the award.
Yeah. All right, you got to get out of here. You're back tomorrow with me at 7 a.m. Have a great call, the Hustle game against Mexico City.
Bunch of screaming children. Looking forward to it.
Education Day. Are they going to teach some Spanish? Maybe they will with Mexico City in town. When we come back, hour number 3, it will be busy. DeMichael Cole will open things up talking Grizzlies. The Grizzlies with that win last night in Phoenix. They'll play the Clippers tonight before the All-Star break. And then we'll talk Memphis Tigers basketball at 9:25 with Parth Upadhyay. You're tuned into Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Fall is football at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland, Town Square. Monday through Friday, it's happy hour from 3 to 6. $1 off all travel meals, $5 off meal drinks, $4.50 for house wine, mozzarella sticks, queso, corn dogs, and more. Friday night lights from 7 to 11. Dining and lunch grill Wednesday, 5 and wings for free. Watch college football and every home game. Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland. Highway 70, Fall is football. Locally owned and operated for over 40 years, Automatic Gates Construction tailors custom-made solutions for all your residential, commercial, and industrial needs, including repairs, maintenance, and installation. Automatic Gates Construction specializes in designing and installing automatic gates and fencing that seamlessly blends security, functionality, and aesthetic appeal. Elevate the safety and efficiency of your property with a premium gate solution. Automatic Gates Construction at myautomaticgates.com.
I know it's not spring yet, but it's close, and right now, it's the perfect time to start thinking and planning for your backyard entertainment. Just so happens Family Leisure is thinking that way too, with their preseason pool and patio sale. Get 2024 pricing on all above-ground pools and patio furniture. Also, secure your spot for pool installation. That way, you can go ahead and start making plans. Lots of new inventory is en route, so in-stock patio furniture is up to 70% off. You want a play gym, a trampoline, how about an outdoor kitchen to go along with that new pool? They're all on sale too. You can get spas up to $3,000 off and save even more by mentioning this ad. You do that, you'll get a $250 gift card with a pool, spa, or patio furniture purchase. Winter won't last forever. Spring will be here soon, so get ready with the preseason pool and patio sale at Family Leisure, Whit Road off I-40, where family and fun all come together.
This traffic brought to you by Brinson Tax Service. They protect you like family.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good morning. Wrapping up this wreck on 240 westbound near Poplar. And it's pretty busy over here on this side of town. Anyway, this time of the morning, especially between Walnut Grove and Poplar, going westbound on 240. It continues to build on 55, coming up through DeSoto County, up through Hernando, as you work your way into South Memphis. Hey, if your lawn needs a little bit of help this time of the year, don't worry. Lawn Solutions, they've got you covered. Check out their website, lawnsolutionsinc.net. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis, with Dave Voloshin, weekday mornings from 10 to 11.
Welcome back, everyone. 9:02 the time. Our final hour today on this Hump Day edition of Sports 56 Mornings. Greg Gaston, Elijah Seegers producing our program. Eli is off to call the Hustle game this morning down in South Haven at the Landers Center. Currently 41 degrees. It will get up to 50 today. and it will be another rainy day in the Mid-South. Rainfall about a half an inch on top of what we had yesterday. Then tonight, cloudy skies early, partly cloudy after midnight, a low of 31 degrees. Your Thursday looks to be nice as far as the sun shining, but the high of only 38 and an overnight low down to 25 degrees. Friday, 50 degrees with sunshine and a little bit of clouds. Hour 3 of the program brought to you by Jenkins Floors and More. 2356 Goodman Road in Horn Lake, which is a hop, skip, and a jump from anywhere in the metropolitan Memphis area. They also have stores in Cleveland, Mississippi, and in Little Rock, Arkansas. You're looking to put down some flooring, some carpeting. Maybe you're looking for some backsplashes for your kitchens and bathrooms, plantation shutters and blinds, ceramic and porcelain tiles. That's what they have at Jenkins Floors and More. And they sell it wholesale. Skip the middleman, save you lots of money in the process. So for all you do-it-yourself homeowners, your contractors out there, it just makes sense to get your material from Jenkins. Top-of-the-line product, and you're going to save a lot of money. Now, if you want Jenkins to lay that flooring down, that carpeting down, they can do that for you as well. They'll come to you. They'll give you a free estimate, and they'll get the job done in an unheard of 2-week turnaround. That's their promise to you. Jenkins Floors and More, 2356 Goodman Road. That's in Horn Lake. Call them at 662-469-9350. They're open Monday through Saturday. Financing is available. Military and first responders, 10% off. Sports 56 listeners, ask about your family discount. It's Jenkins Floors and More. Time now to talk some Grizzlies with DeMichael Cole.
It's time to talk some Grizzlies basketball. Joining Greg and Eli is DeMichael Cole, Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal. Here's DeMichael with Greg and Eli.
He is the outstanding Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal. He's DeMichael Cole. You can follow him on Twitter at DeMichaelC. He joins us every Wednesday all year long to talk Grizzlies, talk NBA. How are you, man?
I'm doing pretty good, guys. How we doing?
Doing great. What's your travel plans? I assume you're going out to San Francisco?
Yeah, I leave bright and early in the morning, and I'll be there Thursday through Monday. Yep.
Do you like what they're going to do this year with the multiple games?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I like it, but it's better to me. I know, some people want to go back to just the traditional way and all that, but guys aren't playing traditionally from a playing style standpoint. Like, I just want to see a little bit more competitive. Like, it's the thing about the All-Star game is it's the best versus the best, but we don't really get to see that anymore. Like, it's boring. It's not fun to watch. It's a couple nice dunks in the first quarter and alley-oops, and Damian Lillard and Steph Curry will pull up and make some half-court three-pointers, and next thing you know, it's 225 to 210. Like,
that's what I said earlier.
it's disgusting. I'm so. My thing is, now that it's down to 8 players and you give it a target score, I think that's going to make guys a little bit more willing to compete. You're not going to give up as many free points knowing that you're only going to, well, I think the target score is 40, 50 points. So you're not going to give up as many points willingly, for one. And then I think there will be a pride factor, the way they set up the teams. There's a global team. There's a team that's predominantly, NBA young, youthful stars. There's a Rising Stars team that'll make it to Sunday, and the team that's playing the Rising Stars team, like, think about it. The Rising Stars, they're not going to come in that game being too cool and whatnot. They're going to play.
They're going to play.
And you don't want to lose to a team filled with rookies and second-year players. So I feel like that's going to bring the competitiveness out of certain guys, and then, of course, you make it to the final game. You're not just going to, pack it in. At least that's, I think, what they're thinking, and that's what I'm thinking. So from a competitive standpoint, I like it. Like, I know it has not been popular among the masses. Like, I know Ja Morant basically told me a month or two ago, like, he doesn't even want to go because he doesn't think it's going to be, he doesn't like the setup. I know Kevin Durant said he didn't like it. He said, let's go back to the traditional ways. But, like, I'm fine with going back to the traditional ways, but, like, guys are going to play. Yeah.
Exactly. Look, I don't mind that Adam Silver and company are looking outside the box. They're trying to do something to fire up everybody, especially the spectators, and get the good TV numbers. But I'm with you. Maybe it'll be a little bit better. I'll give it a shot. I don't like where the All-Star game has gone. It's a lot better than what's happening in football with the Pro Bowl, which is an absolute joke. But, we'll see. And it would be kind of cool if the team that comes out of the Rising Stars ends up being the team with Zach Edey and Jalen Wells, and then they're playing Sunday night, and Jaron's playing for Team Kenny. I mean, that could be kind of fun, at least for you, certainly, covering the event.
Yeah, it definitely would be fun. And, I mean, they have, I think, one of the two most talented Rising Stars teams. Like, they got a nice squad over there with Zach Edey and Jalen Wells on. So we'll see. You know, it'll be interesting to me how their games translate. Like, I think Jalen Wells jokingly said, like, this will be the first time I don't have to pick up someone like 94 feet in my NBA career, which is pretty true. And you know, it's a different kind of game. You know, All-Star games are always different for those bigs, and especially a big like Zach Edey. Like, it's, you know, some of the things that he's great at are, you know, more or less a little bit frowned upon in All-Star settings. Like, his game is physicality. It's, you know, knocking guys out of the way and being, you know, that force. And in an All-Star game, it's like, hey, man, chill out. Like, this is an exhibition. You ain't got to hit me in the chest that hard, right. You know. So it'll be interesting to see how he approaches that, and as well as Jalen.
Have you had a chance to talk to Tripp? Is he excited if you have?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely excited. You know, I think he was hopeful that it could be him and Ja, you know, representing the Grizzlies. But with this being the case, yeah, I think it's fair to say, yeah, he's excited for sure. And if you look at the setup, like I said, he's on that youthful stars team. You know, you got a team with like the older players, right? With Kevin Durant, LeBron, those guys are on the team. Then you got a team with like some of the younger stars that he's featured on, and then there's a team, you know, with Jokic and Giannis and those guys as well. So he's on the team that I think has the most to prove in a way. So it will be fun to see how he takes advantage of that moment. But yeah, he's definitely looking forward to it.
All right. Before all that, one more game for the Grizzlies tonight in Los Angeles against the Clippers. But last night it was Phoenix, and the Grizzlies take care of business 119-112. I like what you tweeted out. You said it's a really good team, talking about the Grizzlies. People are going to drive themselves wild stressing over 4 or 5 teams while Memphis is blitzing everyone else. In other words, stop, enjoy for a little bit, and then, you know, we'll see what happens when the postseason comes. But easier said than done with a lot of fans, DeMichael, because the end result is what's important to most people. So I think you make a lot of sense with what you're saying. Enjoy these games while you can. Enjoy this team winning the bulk of their games, and then we'll concern ourselves with the postseason.
Yeah, it's annoying from the standpoint of, you go back to what happened last season, it's like people are starting to forget. Like, this team has now, I mean, we're talking what, that's 12 of the last 14? 11 of the last 13.
11 of 13,
yeah. They've won 11 of 13. And it's like, yeah, the 2 losses in there were ugly. Like, that Knicks loss was probably the worst of the season. And the Thunder one was disappointing because there was a lot of hype going into it. But outside of that, they've won the rest of those games in this stretch. But here's where I have probably the bigger problem. And it'd be interesting to see what you think as well, because everyone's talking about this whole, you know, the Grizzlies aren't good against the contenders, right? They're the best of the best.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is starting to kind of be, you know, exaggerated. Like, don't get me wrong. Where I say I am not on the line of saying, oh yeah, they can beat all these contenders, but to me, we don't have the sample size. I feel like this is just a point that at this point of the season, it's being made out of thin air. It's a frustration thing with a couple games that's being exaggerated. And here's the point that I'm making. If you go to the Eastern Conference, top 5 teams in the East. If you say how the Grizzlies fares against the Cavs, Celtics, Knicks, Pacers, they're 4-1. They're 4-1 against the top 5 in the Bucks. By the way, the Bucks swept the Bucks. They won the only game against the Pacers. Lost ugly against the Knicks. They beat the Celtics. 4-1 against the top 5 in the East. So that's that. If you go over to the West, it's a little bit different. But if you go to the top 5 in the West, they're 0-2 against the Thunder. I think they're 1-1 against the Nuggets. But guess what? I'm throwing both of those games against the Nuggets out the window because neither team was healthy in that game. In those games, we didn't learn much about a potential Nuggets-Grizzlies matchup. Throwing those games out the window. The Lakers, I put a TBD on me for them now because Luka's there now. AD is gone. I'm throwing that one out the window. The Rockets, they're 1-3 against the Rockets. But guess what? 2 of those losses were one-possession games, and one thing happens in the final 20, 30 seconds that drastically alters the result. Basically, to me, they played the Rockets to a draw. It's a toss-up in the playoffs. I don't see any team but one team, Oklahoma City Thunder, that you just go into a series and say, oh, yeah, they'll struggle winning a couple games going against that team. Everyone else, I don't understand this whole they can't compete with the – like, I feel like there's some validity to it based on how they've lost to certain teams. There is some validity to it, but it's exaggerated to a degree, and it's kind of annoying because they're really good. Like, they are the 2 seed. There's a gap there. They've been consistent. A lot of players are playing well. I just don't get it. Like, they'll play the Clippers tonight, and they struggled in the one game against the Clippers, right? They lost to the Mavs. I think that was the one where people said that was a contender team. The Mavs don't have Luka anymore. So I don't understand, like, why this thing is being exaggerated so much.
Did you debate in high school? Because you're a good debater. You make a lot of really good and interesting points. Okay, so let me counter with a couple things. This is not counterpoint, but just you're absolutely right that we should enjoy the ride, but it's very tough, especially on Sports Talk Radio. We're always looking at the destination, the outcome, the finality. That's what we want to know. At least that's what we do here. But yes, for general fans, especially for those who are buying tickets, enjoy the ride. Enjoy the games. You're winning the bulk of your games. It's just like Memphis Tigers basketball. You're enjoying winning, right? That's the whole thing is winning, and they're winning. Both these teams are winning. So that's number one. Number two, the Grizzlies, and I agree with you. Right now, I look at Oklahoma City and go, yeah, they're tough to beat. They are just loaded. But they went up to Boston. They beat Boston. They have that good record against the top teams in the East. Memphis is certainly capable of beating just about anybody. We know that. I think people would accept that. Instead of looking at it East-West, the way I would probably look at it, again, assuming now we're looking at the destination, is there a theme of the games that they have lost? I'm not counting the Brooklyn games they lost earlier in the year. I'm talking about in recent last couple of months. Is there a certain type that the Grizzlies struggle with? And most people say it's physical teams, right?
Yep,
okay.
100%.
So the way then I would start to break it down and go, who are the most physical teams? And are most of them in the West? And so
for sure.
that's concerning. Now, can Memphis play physical? They should be able to, but they're not. This is not grit and grind. This isn't Zebo and Tony Allen and those toughies. But you're telling me that Ja doesn't back down from anybody. Dez doesn't back down from anybody. Edey's laying the lumber now. Why can't they play more physical? Why can't they become a little bit more than just this fast-paced, high-octane offense, right? You could change your stripes a little bit, can't you?
For sure. Yeah. I think you make excellent points, and that's something that if I wanted to kind of go a little bit further, I would have got into as well. Like it's not about competing against the contending teams. It's about how they fare against the more physical teams.
Yes.
That's the way that I've always looked at it. So you pointed out exactly the way that I feel. But the thing is, to me, I said all that just to say that the sample size on the Grizzlies versus the contending teams in the West is still so small for us to, like, it's like talk to me in March, because this stretch, after you include this game and after the All-Star break, we're gonna learn some things really, really quickly here. Like you're talking about at Indy right after the All-Star break, and then you got Cleveland after that, and then you get the Knicks at home, and then you turn over to March. You got the Thunder, Mavs mixed in there early in March. So we're going to learn some things here really soon. But yeah, I think there's not enough. There's still a lot of meat on the bone, for us to figure this thing out.
I think that's fair. All right, let's take Oklahoma City out of the equation for a second. We know how physical they are. Who do you believe are the most physical teams in the West?
The most physical teams in the world, well, the Clippers are right up there.
Yes.
And that's going to be a tough one tonight, where the Clippers have kind of just really given them troubles with physicality. I say the Clippers. I say the Mavericks. I'll put the Mavericks right in there, too, especially with Anthony Davis. If he's able, we'll see how his injury works out. But I'll put the Clippers and the Mavericks right up there with anyone. And then we'll see how this Lakers dynamic works out. The Lakers have the potential, because they're built around like LeBron and those guys. So I put the Clippers and the Mavs are in that tier where they're not far away from the Thunders, and that's why those teams have been the teams that kind of, can compete with the Thunder the best based on, what we've seen over the last couple seasons. The Rockets are in there as well.
Yes,
but
I was going to say Houston.
Yeah, the Rockets are in there, but the Rockets offensively have some things they got to work on. But yeah, you look at those games against Memphis that they won, their physicality really shined against Memphis. So those are the three teams that really stand out to me: the Rockets, the Clippers, the Mavericks. Like the Timberwolves, somewhat, but they got a lot to work on over there. But I think the Timberwolves are probably a step below. Like they're on the same level of physical to me as the Grizzlies. Like the Grizzlies aren't, not a physical team. They're just not the most physical team, and that's the same case with the Timberwolves. And I think you can make the same case for the Nuggets. Like they're not a finesse team, so to speak, but they're not the team. They're not the most physical team, in my opinion. Whereas the Rockets, the Clippers, and the Mavs and the Thunder, they go into every game saying like we're going to impose our will on whoever.
Yeah, it's a great point about Denver. I mean, you're looking at probably, I think he's the best player on the planet in Jokic, and he is a finesse big man. He's not a big physical brooding guy. He passes as well as anybody in the league. He's more finesse and technique and all that. But anyway, that's a really good point. Now, I wanted to ask you one final thing about Ja. Last night we saw Ja. We saw the guy that we've come to love on the basketball court do his thing, play electric, fill up the stat sheet. 26 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Really engaged. He was knocked off his game on Saturday against Oklahoma City. Not just because of what OKC did, and Alex Caruso did a pretty good job in defending, and whoever else was thrown at him. But he got knocked off his game because they weren't getting calls. And the history with the one official, and the whole darn thing with T. Morant. That is a little bit of a worry, is it not? That he will lose, there's a game when he's not getting calls, that he kind of pouts a little bit, argues a little bit, doesn't get back on defense, does some things that hurt the team on Saturday. Hopefully it's not the case, but that to me is a little concerning, DeMichael.
Yeah, because, I mean, here's the thing. I don't know what happens behind closed doors, but I'll say this. It would be not only a little concerning, it would be a high point of concern if we've reached this point of the season and Taylor Jenkins hasn't pointed out to John Morant, whether it be in film, whether it be addressing him in front of the team, or however he does it. I don't know how he does that stuff, but it would be very concerning if he hasn't says, Ja, look, you're complaining a lot. Like, we get it. I'm mad that some calls are being missed. You're frustrated that some calls are being missed on you. But we cannot let that carry over into the next play. There were a couple plays in this last game, and one of them I saw Phoenix scored on, and there was another one that resulted in a missed open shot where Ja, and he got a good whistle in this game. He had 12 free throw attempts. But when he didn't, he's staring at the referee, his shoulders are slumped down, and the other teams grab the board, and they're gone. And now your teammates are playing 4-on-5, so that's happened a decent amount. I mean, you go back to that Knicks game, you look at the first quarter of that game, I mean, he was really, like, huffing and puffing in that one. So the point is, like, I look at Jalen Wells a lot. man, Jalen Wells is a guy who I think sometimes he can just smack the hardwood and just go bonkers on referees at some of the stuff that, because he's playing physical defense and he doesn't get a lot of wiggle room. Maybe it's because he's a rookie. Maybe it's because, the vets are savvy when they're playing against him, whatever it is. But, you never see him phase, so to speak. And he takes some hits, too. Whereas Ja, get downhill, and some of them are so-so calls. Some of them he probably should get the foul call. And if that whistle isn't blown, you're going to see it carry over into the next play for him. So, yeah, it's got to be addressed because you talk about those physical teams. You talk about teams like the Clippers. They lost that game earlier this season, 114-110. The point that I'm making is these games against some of these better teams, it's going to come down to a possession here or there. Those games against the Rockets that they lost, 2 of them, it's just here or there. It's a play here or there. And you're going to look back and think, man, if I would have got back on defense, that's going to be something that's the easily correctable thing. So, yeah, I think you need to get out in front of it now before you get to March and April, and it's a bigger point that we're talking about.
Yeah, because it's one thing when a team shuts you down, they get real physical, or they do a great job defensively. Another thing is when you self-implode, like you cost yourself and your team because of your actions. Right, that's two different things. So, yeah, I think you're right. And a good coach, and Taylor's a good coach, will address that situation, I would imagine. He is DeMichael Cole, Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal. He's getting ready to head out to San Francisco for All-Star Weekend festivities, and I'll write all about it at the CA. Follow him on Twitter, at DeMichaelC, and make sure you catch him every Wednesday all year long talking with us right here on Sports 56 Mornings. Safe travels, DeMichael. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you when you get back.
I appreciate you guys. Take care.
Take care. Good stuff always from DeMichael Cole. Good stuff always at Corky's. Corky's Ribs and Barbecue. My. Over 40 years of serving up that delicious slow smoke barbecue, and they have been catering that entire time as well. They'll start you out as low as $7.99 per person. There's no event too big for Corky's to cater. They have catered some huge events. Just contact them about their catering services. 4 locations: Poplar Avenue in Memphis, Poplar Avenue in Collierville, Germantown Parkway in Cordova, and Goodman Road in Olive Branch. They have lunch specials every day. Party packs that start at just $7.49. When you head over for lunch or dinner, you get yourself an entree. Grab a third of a rack of ribs for just $7.99. It could be a barbecue sandwich. It could be their award-winning catfish plate. It could be a tamale. It could be an amazing hamburger that they have. Yes, their hamburgers are really, really good. It's Corky's Ribs and Barbecue. And if you have an event coming up, like an anniversary, a birthday party, celebration, graduation party, you can reserve their private party room at either the Cordova or the Olive Branch locations. Corky's Ribs and Barbecue, open for lunch and dinner 7 days a week. The fun continues when we return. We talk Tigers basketball with Parth Upadhyay from the Daily Memphian. You're tuned in to Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows. Stay up to date with station events and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
Andy Wise here. I'm an actual customer of Pella Windows and Doors of Memphis in the Mid-South. I was so impressed, I endorsed Pella as the standard in affordable luxury. And now, Pella's even more affordable. 12 months, no interest, no payments, plus 50% off installation. Mention you heard this on the radio and get another $500 off. I'm telling you, as your consumer investigator, as their customer, make the wise choice of Pella Windows and Doors of Memphis in the Mid-South.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, Select Quote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call Select Quote at 1-800-445-6363. That's 1-800-445-6363. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-445-6363. That's 1-800-445-6363.
Select Quote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Something amazing is happening in education. Students are inspired and engaged. That's because school districts consulted with CDW, who designed modern classroom solutions with pre-configured HP devices, making learning more accessible, secure, and immersive. Now when students study topics like elephants, it feels like elephants.
Putt-putt time. The weather's getting right for a little turn outside. Putt-putt Golf and Games Driving Range is a good place to be. At Putt-putt Driving Range, $10 gets you a small bucket of balls, use of the chin and putting greens, and time tracer. Even senior rates available. Putt-putt Golf and Games Driving Range. 84 Summer Avenue. Putt-putt Driving Range. 901-386-2992. Putt-putt Driving Range. It's putt-putt time.
Now back to Sports 56 mornings on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Here once again are Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
Oh, baby, it's another Thursday, Sunday deal for the Memphis Tigers. I don't know what they think about that. I know the American Conference gets some good exposure, but man, I hate it. I like the Saturday games, don't like the Sunday games. Either way, both these games are on the road tomorrow night. The Tigers will play at South Florida. Sunday, early, I think 11 a.m. tip, they'll take on the Wichita State Shockers. And each and every week, we get to talk Tigers basketball with our good buddy Parth Upadhyay.
It's time to talk Memphis Tigers basketball. Joining Greg and Eli is Parth Upadhyay, the Tigers beat reporter for the Daily Memphian. Now here's Parth with Greg and Eli.
He is Parth Upadhyay from the Daily Memphian. He does join us each and every week. Good morning, Parth.
Good morning, fellas. How you doing?
Doing great. Now, let me ask you this. When you pack for this trip, do you pack just for South Florida and come back, or do you go right to Wichita? How's that work?
No, I've been doing the whole two cities in one swing deal this season just because these games are so close. I mean, this is my third season on the beat, and it's never been this tight of a turnaround, right, between road games. So I did this one trip, two city thing. I think the first time, obviously, was San Francisco when they played the Dons over there at Chase Center, and then went to Maui for the Maui Invitational. The last time would have been Temple and Philly, and then Philly to Charlotte. And then this is my third such trip, this one obviously being Tampa, where it will feel like summer.
Right.
It's like 83 degrees.
And then cold
is the average throughout the week. And then there's a wintry mix forecasted when I land in Wichita on Saturday. So hopefully there's no flight delays. But, yeah, man, enjoying the journey, no doubt.
So did you have to pull out the big suitcase? Since you had to go winter weather, you had to go winter clothes for Wichita, summer clothes for Tampa.
Not only did I have to pull out the big suitcase, I had to do the deal where you put the suitcase on the ground, put your knee on it, and then zip it up right around your knee as you're trying to jam all your stuff into the bag. So I've got the bag busted out the seams here with some sport coats, winter jacket, a couple thermals for when Wichita comes around, and then a pair of swim shorts, obviously, for beautiful Tampa.
Parth was a Boy Scout. He's prepared for everything. Everything and anything. All right, so Tyrese Hunter's the big story. What do we know about Tyrese and his availability for not only the game on Sunday, but obviously the game tomorrow, first of all?
Yeah, so obviously it's kind of weird, right? It's the same injury, that right kneecap that had been bothering him all season. I mean, the first time we heard about this was, I think, either before the UNLV game or after, and that was, November 9th, second game of the season. That's the first time that Penny had spoke about, Tyrese missing extended practices and kind of being sidelined a lot, through the preseason, through the late preseason, and through the early season. And that injury kind of never went away, but it also didn't get to the point where it flared up to the extent that he would have to miss games, right? So even Penny was a little bit surprised when he saw Tyrese, that would have been, Super Bowl Sunday? Yeah, Sunday afternoon, Sunday morning, and Tyrese was like, "Hey, coach, I'm gonna give it a go, but there's no guarantees I'm gonna play this one," because this is a guy who hasn't missed a single game, in his college career.
Crazy.
4-year player. I think it was 139 straight games. That's every game he's played in his collegiate career. All starts, no misses. So if that guy is telling you that he might not be able to give it a go, obviously it's not some kind of little silly injury. It's something that's really hampering him. But the program came out yesterday, obviously, and told the media that Tyrese was sidelined from practice again yesterday, and his status would continue to be kind of TBD. So game-by-game situation, and it'll be a game-time decision for South Florida on Thursday night.
Well, we know what kind of leader he is. He can be explosive at times offensively, plays good shutdown defense on the perimeter, and that's a big loss. Sunday, though, Dante Harris, who was the midseason acquisition, who played at Virginia at one time, he steps in, does a very nice job, very admirable job. I like the fact that he played, I think, 29 minutes and didn't turn the ball over. That's extremely important for this team. So what are your thoughts on how Dante played, and if they have to continue at least for a game or two with Dante in the starting lineup?
Yeah, I thought he played well. Certainly, even though he wasn't necessarily facilitating. Like you said, he played mistake-free basketball. He's a guy who does the dirty work, right? Like if you watch him, he's sitting down and defending from the half-court line onward. And I'm not saying the other guys aren't doing that, but his tenacity, his intensity, you can see it for every minute he's on the court. But I thought, something that's been under-discussed is P.J. Haggerty, right? This is a guy who, as great as he's been, he's had an All-American type season, one of the best scorers in the country, all of that. He's been one of the keys to Memphis's turnover issue as well, right? At times. We've talked about that.
Sure.
3 turnovers here, 4 here, whatever it may be. I want to say he had, and correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say he had 1. He had 7 assists and 1 turnover in that win against Temple as Memphis's primary facilitator, primary playmaker without Tyrese Hunter. So I think just his ability and his growth in that department to kind of rein that in and to, like Penny says, right, play fast but not in a hurry has been key. And now you kind of see the reason behind getting 2 point guards, 2 true point guards. Because at first you're like, how's this going to work? These guys both are ball dominant. They both want to play the point guard position, but they obviously made it work. And now you're kind of seeing that insurance policy pay off for Memphis, I think.
So we've been talking ad nauseum about the fact that the Tigers, when they have somebody down, have not been able to really step on the throat. 8, 10, 12-point lead should go to 20. Instead, it goes down to 4, and it becomes competitive. And Temple kept making a big 3. Every time it got to 11 or 12, they'd hit a 3, and it ended up hanging around in that game. But I thought for the most part, the Tigers played a good game. There was the revenge factor. You can't underplay that, right? They lost to Temple in Philly. It was their only loss so far in the conference. So I figured they'd be ready to go. And we just talked about Harris stepping in for Hunter. So no problem with motivation for that one. Do you worry, or should there be any concern? Because a lot of times Memphis has played to the level of the competition. Is there a concern that, okay, you're going to beautiful Tampa, you're going to get off the plane, it's going to be probably sunny and nice, and
I can't wait.
And it's South Florida. They're not leading the conference. They're not really a contender. Do you concern yourself with them? See, Sunday, Wichita State, you might be looking at it like, well, we beat them the first time, so they may have that revenge factor in their mind, and we better be up for that one. But I worry a little bit about this South Florida game, that they may take it for granted. Are you concerned at all about that?
A little bit, but not as much as I've been with some of these, inferior, lower-ranked AAC teams in the past, because I guess 2 reasons, right? One is I'm not sure, obviously, what Tyrese's status will be come tip-off. He could play, he could not play. I'm not sure. If he doesn't play, I think that's going to be another thing for this team to rally around. We saw, Penny spoke about it. I think, Dante Harris, who stepped in, obviously spoke about it as well, the kind of need to play for Reese, right? Like, because he obviously wasn't happy with missing that game. Doesn't sound like any kind of season-altering type injuries. Thank God for that. But this is a guy who hasn't missed a single game in his career, high school or college. So obviously, he wasn't thrilled about that and was down to a certain extent. So I think the team would rally behind him certainly if he was to not play. And the second part of this is, Saturday is the selection committee's reveal, right?
Yes,
of the top 16 seeds as they see it now. Obviously, those things could change, and they have changed in the past. But if I'm Penny, man, I'm saying, look, this is our final opportunity, at least for now, before this show goes on CBS, right, national television, to have the Memphis Tigers be represented in that fashion, right? Like in that group. They're projected to be a 4 seed by Jerry Palm at CBS Sports. They're projected to be a 5 seed by Joe Lenardi at ESPN. And if you just look across different bracketologies, right now everybody has a bracketology, it seems like, just like everybody has a ranking or a blog or whatever. They're pretty much a 4 or 5, in some cases a 6 across the board. So there is an opportunity there to beat South Florida and beat it convincingly. And if you do it without Tyrese Hunter, I think that would certainly turn some heads, and it might just kind of write your ticket, at least for now, into a number 4 seed when Sunday at 12:30 comes around, or Saturday at 12:30, comes around.
Jerry Palm was on with us last hour. As you know, he comes on with us each and every week. Eli asked him about Saturday, and he asked him if Memphis will be in the top 16. And Jerry said, I think so, but he wasn't sold. Obviously, he has him projected as a 4 seed. You never know what that committee is looking at.
Right.
We've talked so much about the net and things of that nature. Ken Pomeroy's coming on my show tomorrow to kind of give that explanation to people who don't understand why they're so low. They're 43 in Ken Pom, 45 in the net, and 14th in the polls. Again, the polls don't mean a lot, but the net should only mean so much, right? The resume, the eye test, what Memphis has done in the non-conference, what they've done in the conference so far. That's what's important. But I think you're right. I think tonight, and that maybe that's that extra motivation, is to put your best foot forward in that final game before the reveal on Saturday. So that's the game tomorrow. And I know you've already predicted Memphis to run the table. You did that on our show last week. So I would assume you're thinking they're going to go into Wichita and not have a problem either on Sunday?
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. Obviously, that's a tougher environment, just in terms of crowd, right? That's a tougher place to play. The Roundhouse is compared to Yuengling Center in Tampa Bay.
Yes, I agree.
Where it might be largely, might not be completely full. And then you've got the Kobe Rogers thing where he had not a great game the first time around against his former team. I just can't imagine a guy like that is going to have 2 stinkers against his former team, especially when Penny kind of alluded to the fact that, there may be some hard feelings there, right, between the two sides. So I think the guys would play for Colby as well in that regard, and I think he'll play for himself and want to silence those fans who are going to, I'm sure, be raucous as ever come Sunday. I think, the running the table thing, I think that obviously changes a little bit if Tyrese misses extended games. I'm not saying he will. Mm-hmm. I'm saying should he miss, 1, 2, 3, something like that, games, then that changes. We saw the first half where things got kind of sloppy against Temple there, where they had to kind of adjust to playing without Tyrese. So certainly decreases the possibility of running the table, but I think it's still very much possible, and I think it's somewhat likely, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Parthu Pajai joining us on the Sissy's Log Cabin guest line, getting ready to head down to Tampa for the Tigers in South Florida tomorrow, and then on to Wichita for Wichita State and the Tigers Sunday morning. If you do not count Memphis, we are down to 2 teams in the American Conference who have single-digit losses. North Texas with 6 and UAB now with 9 after blowing that game yesterday in Greenville against East Carolina. So,
man, yeah.
So it's been like this for a while, but all these teams know when they go down to Dickies Arena in Fort Worth that the only way that they are getting to the NCAA tournament is to win the AQ, win the tournament and get the AQ. Memphis
Correct.
is getting in either way. And while Tim Pernetti, the commissioner, is, I'm sure, not outwardly rooting for somebody other than Memphis, inwardly he has to be thinking a second team, more money for the conference and all that. But, yeah, these teams are in desperate mode now. So, I wonder, how that's all going to shape out as we move forward.
No, for sure. And I think once you get to Fort Worth, like it's pretty much, I know it's a cliche, but it's a new season. Like you said, teams are in desperation mode. Teams are as engaged as they've been perhaps all season.
Yes.
I just wonder if now, like with Memphis creating the separation it has in the league, and especially the bottom of the league being, kind of so separated from the mid, right? I wonder if some of those teams have checked out. You kind of get that sometimes as well, right? When it comes to mid-February, where teams have nothing else to play for. There's nothing left to play for, and, teams kind of mail it in.
So right now we have about, I don't know how many weeks it would be, 4 weeks left to go in the regular season, and then the conference tournament? Yep. Okay. So it's a little early still, but I would imagine that right now, and I assume you have a vote for all the all-conference players and the player of the year, that P.J. Haggerty's got to be the leading candidate in the American. Would you have Dane Danger right now as a first-teamer for all-conference?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I think with him especially, it's too early to say. I know in the season, the grand scheme, it's not early, but in these 5 starts, man, he's been sensational. I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but it's been about 17-something points.
Yes.
7 rebounds. And he's filled the stat sheet across the board as well with assists and steals and blocks, everything. He's doing a little bit of everything right now. Now, if that continues, I think he'll have a case, but you've got to, if you're just doing process of elimination, right? Like, so P.J. Haggerty's a lock on first team. I think Yaxel Lindeborg is a lock on the first team.
Jamal Mashburn, but he's been
Jamal Mashburn. Yeah, I mean, there's some speculation out there, and I'm sure you've seen the reporting from I think it's owlsdaily.com that he may be out for the season. I've seen that. Now, if that's the case, that might drop him to second team, perhaps. But
I think it would, right? He'd miss basically half the games.
So, it would have to. I think it would have to. But if he is back in the next game or two, even the next 3 games, and he's performing as he was when he was healthy, which was he was second best scorer in the nation, leading scorer in the conference, he'd be a lock. So that's 3 guys already. Got 2 spots left.
Does Hunter have a chance for first team?
I think he'd be more of a second team guy, right? Looking at the stats.
Yeah.
So looking at the stats, I mean, he's had games where he's looked like one of the best point guards in the country, right? Like we've seen that as well from him. In Maui, I think at Clemson he had a big game. But if you're just looking at the season in its entirety, I think he'd be a all AAC second teamer. That's tough because I think those 3 that we mentioned, P.J. Haggerty, Yaxel Lindeborg, Jamal Mashburn Jr. are locks.
But isn't it stupid?
I
mean, seriously.
Spears from UTSA? Yeah.
But isn't it stupid if you have your first team all conference, Memphis runs away with this conference, and you have just the one player from Memphis, when there are guys that you certainly can argue for in Danger and Hunter? You're going to slap some guy on from Rice or something? I mean, right, you got to get
I hear you.
I think, right?
No, I hear you. Especially, like you said, if Memphis, it's not a guarantee. I know I predicted it. I think it's possible. But if Memphis was to run the table, and if Danger keeps up what he's done for the past 5 games for the final 7, it'd be a pretty big sample size of him dominating. This is what he's been doing, right? Then you've got to put him on. So I think it all depends on how the rest of this stretch shakes out and how Danger in particular performs.
He is Parthu Pajai from the Daily Memphian. He covers Memphis Tigers men's basketball and does it incredibly well. We love having him on the program. He joins us each and every Wednesday to talk Tigers basketball. You can follow him on Twitter. I'll spell it out for you. That's at PUPADHYAYA _ Parthu Pajai from the Daily Memphian. Hey, safe travels. Have fun in Tampa and Wichita. We'll talk to you next week.
We'll do for sure. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Parth. Appreciate it. Parthu Pajai from the Daily Memphian. Speaking of basketball, you want to become a better shooter, better all-around player, Shoot 360 Memphis is the place for you. What is it? It's a revolutionary basketball training facility that combines cutting-edge technology with gamification, provides instant objective feedback with hands-on one-on-one expert coaching. They got a lot of years compiled between all those coaches that they have. They have a former Memphis Grizzly assistant coach in Scott Adebato, just part of that incredible coaching staff. And for all you coaches out there, they put on a free coaching clinic. So call them or stop by and find out more information, the schedule of those coaching clinics. But for you basketball players out there, you want to become a better shooter of the ball, you want to become a better all-around player, it just makes sense to become a member at Shoot 360 Memphis. 2 locations in Cordova and in Collierville, and now they accept monthly memberships. So join up for a month. If you don't like it, no big deal. If you like it, which I think you will, then you're going to want to sign up for more. You can do it month to month. You can do it for a year, whatever you think is right for you. You can go online to Shoot 360 Memphis to sign up, or call them and visit Cordova or visit Collierville location. The number in Cordova is 901-779-3176. In Collierville, it's 901-316-5500. Heck, you may see me out there. It's Shoot 360 Memphis. The future of basketball training is here at Shoot 360 Memphis. Final segment on the way. This is Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
We are Real Sports Talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56. Sports 56 and 95 FM.
Is your wife asking you to stop eating junk food? We have it covered at Humdinger. It's quick, it's healthy, and most important, it tastes amazing. Many choices from salmon salad to rainbow trout and grilled asparagus. Come visit us for lunch at Humdinger, 6300 Poplar Avenue. So good, Coach Penny eats with us weekly. Don't forget, Humdinger's offers full-service catering for weddings, social events, or your corporate lunches. You can call 901-260-8292 to find out more.
Hi, this is Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. I have been told that my ads are all business and I should share some of my personality. Okay, I love tongue twisters, like the one about the terrific tasting toast by Taste Tester Toaster, or Big Black Bugs, Bleed Blue Blood, and of course Sally and her seashells. Or of course the ever-present I'm a mother pheasant plucker, I plug mother pheasants. Okay, enough of that. If you want an honest, fair, reasonable roofing, siding, or gutter estimate, call Fiveash Roofing at 367-0050. That's exactly what you'll get. No empty promises, no high-pressure sales tactics, and no fast-talking salesman trying to convince you that today and only today is the best day for you to get a new roof. For the record, the best day to get a new roof is when you're ready for one. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
I'm Finley Lavin, defender for University of Memphis Women's Soccer. Southern Security has the perfect low-interest rewards credit card. Variable annual percentage rates ranging from 15 to 18% and may increase at any time. Transfer your high-interest credit card balances to a Southern Security Rewards Visa. Don't miss out on low rates and no transfer fees until December 31st, 2024. Apply today at southernsecurity.org or call our member service team 901-452-7900. Southern Security is a proud supporter of the University of Memphis Athletics, federally insured by NCUA.
Now back to Sports 56 Mornings on Sports 56.
Tom Rock from Newsday tweets out, this isn't a definitive report, but in talking to league and media folks this past week, it sounds like no team wants anything to do with an off-season hard knocks this summer, and it may be a one and done. Hard to imagine why. We have speculated that, Eli and myself, on the hard knocks off-season last summer, which was so good for us to watch, but it was egg in the face of the Giants that you can understand that no team wants to go down that road again. I mean, there's enough that goes on during the season with Hard Knocks, and they do just an incredible job. But this was revealing information from a management perspective on personnel, the whole Saquon Barkley thing, which, again, blew up in their face. And John Mara, the owner, and his wheeling and dealing with the GM. Not really much that he did other than he said with Saquon Barkley, if we're not going to re-sign him, not that they could do anything about it, we can't have him go to a division rival. Well, he was a free agent at that point once you decided not to re-up, and he went to the Eagles. The rest is history. They win a Super Bowl. They look horrible. But they didn't fire the GM. They didn't fire Brian Dable, the head coach. But I can see where teams no. we don't want anything to do with this anymore. So if you don't have any teams that want to do it, unless it's mandated by the league, and we know the regular Hard Knocks is mandated where every team over a certain period of time has to do it, but this will not be mandated. There's no question about it that would just be a waste of time. A process that will end in futility. Let's be honest. College basketball tonight, Ole Miss, South Carolina. We'll have the game for you right here on Sports 56, 98.5 FM, beginning at 5:30 with the pregame, so that will interrupt sports time on Sports 56, that final 30 minutes of the show anyway. 6 o'clock tip on the SEC Network as well. Ole Miss and South Carolina. Excuse me. Ole Miss is 18-6, South Carolina 10-13. And the Rebels, a 4.5-point favorite. Oklahoma at number 21, Missouri. The Sooners at 16-7. Again, one of those bubble teams. They can really help their cause with a road win in Columbia. Missouri comes in at 17-6. Missouri's a 9.5-point favorite. And then it's LSU and Arkansas. LSU, again, one of the bottom feeders in the SEC, 12-11 against Arkansas, 14-9. And they are absolutely a bubble team. Arkansas, they are a 9.5-point favorite. The Razorbacks obviously have played a lot better over the last 2 weeks, but they still need to string some big wins together to get to the NCAA tournament. All right, Elijah, Grizzlies, after the win last night over the Suns, you heard the conversation with DeMichael Cole, going back to the performance on Saturday where they were really punked by Oklahoma City. Tonight, another one of those physical teams. They'll play in Los Angeles against the Clippers. What's your expectations?
Yeah, I expect the Grizzlies to come out with a lot of energy tonight, even on a back-to-back after losing that home game to the Clippers. It's gonna have to be stopping Zubac. It's gonna be having to stop Zubac through the middle. Norman Powell might make some shots. James Harden might make. They're going to do those things. But for the Grizzlies to win this game, I think it starts with controlling the paint both offensively and defensively. And if they can do that, then I feel really good about this game for Memphis.
Is Kawhi a go?
As far as I know.
But you make a great point about Zubac. That's the guy right there. We talk about a physical big. He's good for a double-double usually every game. He's not going to score 25 points. They got those scores in Powell and Harden. And, of course, Kawhi can shoot. But the Clippers at 29-23, they're a team that I think is lurking. Steve Ballmer, money is no object to him. Health, though, there's nothing he can do about that. If they could stay healthy, they can make a run. The Clippers are a 4.5-point favorite in this one. So if you want to take the Grizzlies on the road, you can get plus 150 or thereabouts, depending on your book. The total is 237.5. Also tonight, the Spurs and the Celtics. And the Spurs, they've been good since the acquisition of De'Aaron Fox, but probably a little too late for them. Time's winding down. Still have 30 games or so, but could they get into the play-in? Yes, it's a possibility. But I think the Spurs, especially with what they do in the offseason and the draft, my gosh, I think this is a team certainly on the rise.
Yeah, for sure. I could see them having like a Rockets level jump next year, but I do think it's a little too late this year.
Boston, 8.5-point favorite at home. Hornets at the Magic. Who really cares? Pacers at the Wizards. Indiana is a 10.5-point favorite. Sixers, coming off the loss last night to Toronto, play at the Nets. Again, are the Sixers going to fold up tent here for the rest of the season? Joel Embiid already saying that he's going to need all-season surgery again. Hawks at the Knicks could be a fun game. Cavs at the Raptors. Pistons at the Bulls. The Bulls hoping for a better performance than they had against the Pistons last night. So those two teams are going back-to-back when the Pistons demolished the Bulls yesterday. Bucks at the Timberwolves, Kings at the Pelicans, Heat at the Thunder, Suns go back-to-back. They all basically are going back. Well, there were only 4 games yesterday, so those 8 teams are all going back-to-back, including the Grizzlies. Suns at the Rockets, Trailblazers at the Nuggets, Lakers at the Jazz, so Game 2 for Luka Doncic, again against the Jazz, who he debuted against Monday when the Lakers hosted the Jazz, and the Warriors at the Mavericks. A busy, busy schedule in the NBA tonight, and then it's All-Star break time. That's going to do it for us today. We want to thank our guests, Dane Bradshaw, Jerry Palm, DeMichael Cole, and Parth Upadhyay. Tomorrow's going to be a fun show. We'll be joined at 8:25 by Kerry Miller. We'll talk college basketball, Major League Baseball, pitchers and catchers starting to report now. We'll talk at 9:05 with Michael Lane. He's a professional bull rider. The PBR is going to be their Velocity Tour in Memphis this weekend. He has 3 World Finals appearances. I'm going to find out what it was like at 4 years old, because that's what it says on his resume, that he began bull riding at age 4. Huh? We'll talk to Michael Lane. And then Ken Pomeroy is going to join us, his long-awaited return at 9:30. The man with the plan, Ken Pom. That's tomorrow. It all starts at 7 a.m. Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 is coming up next, so stay tuned for that. For Eli Savoy and Elijah Seegers, I'm Greg Gaston. Have a great hump day, everybody.